I am about to embark on a multi-hour journey talking about every single relevant slash active K-pop rapper in the scene right now. This is like over 100 rappers, probably close to 200. It's crazy. There's going to be so much. So please, as this says above me, watch the intro, and I know you're going to skip to your fave, and that's perfectly fine. You want to see me talk about your fave and where I'm going to rank them so you can know if you get angry or happy with me. Whatever one it ends up being. I respect it. Just give me a few minutes of your time at the start of this so I can answer your questions before you rant to me in the comments about something that I explain here, okay? So, what are we doing? I am tier listing every single K-pop rapper who is currently active in some capacity and or relevance in some way, shape, or form, as in I'm not going to have a lot of like the brand new people who like literally debuted a month ago and we barely know them. For example, the kickflip rappers are not going to be here because we barely know anything about them at this point. So I'm going to give you guys the rundown and go into as much detail as I can that isn't too, I'm not trying to make this video 10 hours going into extreme detail on every single rapper, but I want to give at least a little broad overview. Now, here's the thing. I have a lot of rappers here, right? And I have notes for them. Okay, yeah, so I have like a little cheat sheet here because this is hard to remember. Here is the thing. Most of you are here for your 1, 2, 10 faves. In order to make an accurate list like this, as accurate as I can, without being biased towards my faves, I need to know every single rapper. I need to know their unreleased stuff, if they have any, how much they write, how much they do this and that, and I know them. Okay, I know your fave, and I know the person who's watching thinking that I just went, they don't know my fave. I know your fave as well. I know every person, every Korean idol that you're seeing right here. I have listened to all of them in and out of their group. And that's what we're going to be talking about. And I feel like, if you know my channel at all, I'm very qualified to be talking about this. If you don't know my channel at all, hi, welcome. I talk about K-pop rapping all the time in a serious capacity because nobody else takes K-pop rapping seriously. And I think it should be taken seriously because there's some good K-pop rapping that we'll talk about in a second. Now, what are the tiers meaning? Tier 0 is obviously the best. Tier 6 is the worst, and we have a special horny tier. We'll get to the horny tier when we get to the people who are going to be in the horny tier. But outside of the horny tier is basically tier 0 is like, top tier. These are the best of the best, the creme de la creme. These are the rappers. If you want the best legit rapping in K-pop, this is tier 0. It is literally like, oh yeah, they can genuinely just be K-hip-hop rappers, and nobody would even argue it, is essentially what that is. And then as it goes down, it's like slowly and slowly they're self-writing less, slowly and slowly they're doing less impressive things, etc., etc. So what I'm tier listing here is their skill, okay? And this is based in a relevant capacity, but also in an overall career sense, right? So what do I mean by that? I mean, somebody who debuts last year with an insane amount of impressive rapping isn't going to be tier 0 because they've only had 1 year of a career to, show their stuff. You need to show, like, for example, you have to have a career long standing of good rapping, but then also still be doing cool stuff, in recency. If you're doing a bunch of cool stuff in 2015, 2016, 2017, but you haven't done anything since then, you're not going to be tier 0, maybe not even tier 1 if you're not doing anything, right? So it's heavily based in recency, but in order to be at the top, you still need to have a good career overall. So it's like a recency list with a little undertone of the career. Beyond that, what are we looking at? What are the criteria? There's not specific criteria. I do not believe in grading rappers in the sense of like, you get a 45 out of 50 for flow. I've seen those TikTok videos. I think that it's kind of weird to put a number on flow. I don't think you can. I think that there is better flow than other flows, but I think it's kind of difficult to actually quantitate it. I wouldn't know how to do that, and I don't think it's really possible. So what am I doing? I'm essentially just looking at the overall skill, how complex the flows that they can do, how often they do complex flows, rhyme schemes, how intricate are the rhyme schemes, or are they just rhyming the end of each bar? Beyond that, the lyricism, how in-depth does their lyricism go? Do they just rap about boy, girl, I love you? Or is it like talking about the intricacies of life and the like, some like really deep powerful message, right? Whether that be there's not too much political messaging going on in K-pop, but like more in-depth, thought-provoking type lyricism, right? But then you can also look at lyricism through wordplay. How much wordplay do they do? Now, to be completely transparent, I am not fluent in Korean. I am fairly traversed with the actual language and how it works in terms of grammatically and sounds and all of that. So I'm able to pick it up, but you're not going to be able to have me be able to go in depth on the meaning of a bar without somebody else helping. So I've looked up a bunch of extra, people who are fluent in Korean that are able to explain the bars a lot better than I am. And yeah, I think finally, before we dive into this, the last thing I will say, if you disagree, feel free to tell me in the comments. I don't know how many comments I'm going to respond to actually, go into depth with some arguments, because I know there's going to be some rappers that are lower or even higher, somebody you might hate that you expect to be lower, right? And in advance, I'm sorry, I guess, but I would just say I'm fairly confident that I know most K-pop rapping better than the vast majority of K-pop fans. Most K-pop fans just hear, oh, that sounds like a badass bar. That's a cool rap. I like that. And, that's completely valid. To me, there's a difference between subjectivity and objectivity. You can like a really simple, easy rap and think that is the best thing in the world. And to each their own, right? But at the end of the day, that simple rap is much easier to do for the rapper than a very complex, difficult one that might be higher up in my rankings, per se. So let's dive into this. Last thing I guess I need to say, I'll mention this a couple times throughout the video. These tiers are not ordered left to right. I'm just putting them in the tier. If you want an actual ranking, let me know. I could do that in the future, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and just go all the way down, right? I can do that in the future. I'm not trying to get into the intricacies of which tier 6 rapper is better. I don't care. Doing a tier list, I don't care. They're just both in tier 6. So, enough talking. Get your popcorn if you're going to be chilling with this entire couple hours, however long this takes. Maybe it's just an hour. I don't know. But however long this takes, it's going to be a long video. Get your popcorn, get your snack, get your drink. I got a water for when my voice dies 45 minutes into this. And I also got a nice little tasty soda as well. So feel free to get your snacks as well and drinks. And let's dive into this. We're going to be starting with all the girls, and then we're moving to the boys, because that's how this tier list is set up. Shout outs to Muse Ribbons, by the way. Community member with KarKpop who made the tier list. Appreciate you, Muse. Thank you. But let's dive into this. So we're going to start with CL and move on from there. So CL, we are starting with tier 4. I am already shocking a million people. I know. CL is, I don't want to, this is not meant to be a negative, video. I'm not trying to be negative. But I just feel like CL is very much thought of as like a top tier rapper amongst girl groups, especially in K-pop. I could not agree. She is a much better singer than rapper. You look at a lot of her notable parts in not only 21 Music, but also features and solos. And a lot of the most popular stuff, but also just some of her best work is vocals, Rosario, etc., etc. Just focusing on vocals is where she seems to shine. If you want to look at her best rapping, a good example would be Chuck. Just purely based on her flows and rhyme schemes, especially in that first verse of Chuck, would probably be the best verse to point out if you want an example of CL rapping good. But throughout the years, she's kind of been unfairly put on this pedestal of insanely top tier rapper because there's just no other girl that was doing it at the time of CL, which kind of makes it a little difficult to accurately judge. When CL, again, this is not about legacy. If we're doing legacy and influence, hell yeah, CL is tier 0. She has influenced so many girl group rappers. She has done so much for the girl group rapping scene. and I respect the hell out of that. But in terms of actual complexity in her verses and skill in terms of what she's writing, she is about in this tier 4 range. And this will clear out more, like, you'll get a more clear concept of what tier 4 is as we get more rappers into this. So let's continue with Hyuna. So Hyuna, we're going to put right below CL into tier 5. Hyuna is, I think most people can agree, very much like a idol who was kind of forced to rap in a sense. She's like, she's shown some potential in some of her solo verses. But like overall, it's like she has, again, some influence like CL, right? And I think that's where most of her claims tend to be, which is like, oh my god, she has that really unique delivery that Soyeon has, that LE has. And you can look at, like, raps like Blacklist, which might be one of her at least top 3 verses, right? The song Blacklist. But beyond that, she does very simple idol-based raps. It is cool that she writes a lot. And by a lot, I mean more than the average idol, at least back during her day especially. But she's very much idol rapper, very straightforward raps with a handful of standout verses here and there. I think most people can recognize that. But let's move on to the aespa girls of Giselle and Karina. We're going to do both at the same time because they are both the same tier. And Karina, we're going to put into tier 5, as well as Giselle. I don't know why I switched them. It does not matter. Again, I'm not ordering left to right. But the aespa girls are tier 5. Let's start with Giselle. We'll talk about Giselle first. The aespa girls are hard, right? Because they have a lot of forced raps from SM. SM really wants aespa to be rap-based. It's to the point where you have raps from Winter, you have raps from Ning, to the 2 girls who aren't even rapper positions in aespa, getting rap parts, and even the most recent comeback of Whiplash, right? With Ning Ning doing a rap in the second verse. And it's like, SM really wants them to be rap-focused, but the thing is, they shouldn't be. At least I don't think it should be. That's kind of a subjective point, and it's kind of mute. But to the actual point of Giselle being tier 5, she's shown like potential in verses, especially in like this past year. She featured on a song called "Skirt," and it wasn't half bad at all. It was like genuinely a pretty decent verse. And then you also have like Sync from pre-debut, which is also genuinely a pretty decent verse. Not as good as the Skirt was, but I think that also just shows her improvement over the years. But she has flashy parts, but not like anything too insane skill wise. With a good example of that being the song Dopamine, which was a recent solo, right? Very flashy, but not necessarily anything too intricate. And I think that's like the definition of Giselle. And I mean, for me personally, in a most biased way, I do not want aespa to rap. I love their vocal focus songs, which I think a lot of aespa fans disagree with me on. They like the intense EDM rap hook type things. When you look at, like, songs like the Supernova and Armageddon, right? Where it's like super more rap focused. I personally love the vocal thing, so I would prefer them to not, have. I'm fine with them down here because I love aespa songs that are vocal focused, but to each their own. If Giselle and Karina come up, they need to be self-writing a lot more in aespa with a lot longer verses to show off what they can do, because they also don't get too long of verses in actual aespa songs. But to talk about Karina specifically as well, because we can't just talk about Giselle. She's definitely gotten better over the years. A few years ago, I would have put Karina like a tier below Giselle. But in recent years, especially through a lot of like recent songs like Up and Menagerie, she's shown off some interesting flows. And it's actually been a little bit impressive. Like stuff that I didn't think that she was actually ever going to do a few years ago, she's starting to do now. But again, kind of like Giselle, in aespa, the group songs, her verses are super tame. However, if you notice, when she's allowed to write, the few times that she's been allowed to write her own verse, uh, it's been pretty impressive. It's actually been quite interesting to hear her rap. So hopefully, again, her and Giselle are allowed to write more. I'm gonna say that for most of the rappers here that don't write, like you need to hear them self write. That is an extremely important part of rapping. And it's really cool that when Karina does self write, it's quite interesting. 1 second, I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Okay, moving on. We got Shin Jimin, or Jimin of AOA. And I think I'm putting her in tier 3, I believe. I think she is, I don't want to say by far, but of the 5 idols that we're talking about here, she's shown the most intricate verses. She has a very, very harsh delivery. There's going to be a lot of people that will listen to her in AOA and be like, ew, it's so high pitched, I can't listen to it. And that's completely fair. That's subjective at the end of the day. However, you can't deny it is a quite interesting delivery. It's very memorable. You're going to hear that, and then and whenever in the future you hear Jimin, you're like, oh, that's Jimin, right? And that's kind of what, in a sense, what a good delivery is. You need to be able to be recognizable and interesting at the same time. And even though it can turn some people off subjectively from her, I think that adds a lot to her stuff. But recently, like, even though she's not doing anything with AOA these days, she's done a lot outside of AOA. That a lot of, like, especially down here with the Espa Girls and Hyuna, like they really didn't do in terms of, like, you know, rapping outside the group. You look at stuff like Second World with her verse in VVWD, had some cool potential in there. When she was on Unpretty Rap Star back in the day with her verse in Puss. Very interesting stuff going on in both of those. But at her base, she's still like Hyuna, right? She's still like this K-pop idol who raps. And even though she self-writes a lot, at this point, I'm not sure how much needs to happen to change that. It's not like she's like been gone from AOA and then suddenly went into her own solo career or something in rap, which would have been really cool, but didn't happen, right? So honestly, she has some interesting and unique flows in VVWD and Puss. Not necessarily unique, but some you know, quite interesting, very good articulated flows, and a very, very spicy delivery. That goes both ways. Moving on, we have some new idols. Baby Monster. Basically everybody from the group almost on this tier list. Ayun, Asa, Chiquita, Rami, Ruka are all on here. Honestly, you might be able to put just all of Baby Monster at this point. But yeah, let's start with Ayun and just go down the list. We have our first tier 6 idol. Baby Monster fans watching this right now about to slap me, I know, but I'm sorry, she hasn't. Baby Monster's been around a year now, and this is going to be a pattern in these next 5 or 6 Baby Monster idols. Baby Monster's been around for over a year. I know it's like technically they didn't debut with Batter Up, whatever it is, but they've been around since Batter Up, November of 2023. And not only does she not write, she doesn't self-write her raps in a quote-unquote hip-hop 5th gen group, right? She also doesn't really show any complexity in her verses. They're very straightforward. Lyrically can be very questionable at times. And again, that's not her fault for not self-writing, but she needs to self-write. She needs to self-write to show that it's not on her. And that's just not happening in YG for whatever reason with Baby Monster. They're just not allowed to self-write except for like 3 songs. I couldn't tell you why. So yeah, hopefully one day she can show us her writing and complex lyrical themes, as well as some really intricate rhythms in terms of the flow and rhymes. But until we get that, and even just like, you know, less standard deliveries, like the YG girl delivery, right? That's become standard nowadays since CO. Until we get different stuff like that, it's really hard to put her anywhere higher than tier 6, at least at the moment. I do hope we get that. But a rapper who is higher than tier 6 out of Baby Monster right now is Asa, and we'll put her up in tier 5. I'm going to go rant real quick, okay? If you don't want to hear an Asa rant, please feel free to skip ahead, because I'm going to rant so much. Asa as an idol, I love her. I want nothing more than her success, especially as a rapper. I would love to see her lead the way for girl group rapping, especially as Soyeon becomes more of a producer in K-pop and less of a rapper and stops, rapping as much, which we'll talk about Soyeon when we get to Soyeon, don't worry. But especially as Soyeon kind of fades out of being the K-pop girl group rapper, right? I would love Asa to fill that role. I think it would be really cool. I think she has so much potential. And you can definitely hear that. The problem is, YG is annoying. Okay? I full-heartedly blame YG for Asa being in tier 5 right here. 100%. This is completely on the company and not on her. They literally hold her back so much, and I have no clue why. Now, again, I could be looking at this in a couple years and be like, what was I talking about? They'd stop holding her back, and she's still not doing anything. And if that's the case, fine. I was wrong. But I just want her to get the opportunity out, without YG literally not letting her write. She's written Woke Up in Tokyo. I think one other song off of the recent album. And then she could have written Batter Up. She didn't. But she could have. And just elected not to tell us. Essentially, there was an interview where Asa was like, yeah, the part that they let me write and Batter Up was that ending part of that chant. Da-na-na, everybody, we are the monsters of the world. Like, that's the part that she wrote. Allegedly. That's the part that she said she wrote. She didn't mention if she wrote her rap verse or not, which makes me think that she didn't write it because she would have mentioned that she wrote it when she was writing it, talking about the stuff that she wrote. Anyways, she's definitely being held back. I need her to be self-writing. I need her to be leading that way for girls in K-pop. I need her to be that leader that everybody claims her to be, because Baby Monster fans and YG fans in general are going on this super high road right now about how Asa's the best girl group rapper and one of the best 5th gen rappers. But she hasn't done anything except flashy stuff that, look, giving her raps that make no sense from YG beyond just sounding cool is what I can't get over. Like, she literally just needs to be allowed to self-write, to be given the freedom to experiment with her sound, to experiment with her delivery, to experiment with flows and rhythms and lyrics beyond a bunch of onomatopoeias in Sheesh, or rapping in Forever about robbing a bank in a breakup love song type thing. Like, what? Why is she she didn't write that? You can't blame Asa, but why is she why is she rapping about, or Woke Up in Tokyo, where she's talking about how she's gonna run and gun in Tokyo? What? So yeah, we need longer raps, we need better raps. I'm sorry, I think Asa should be held to a higher standard than be hyped up about a rap where she's talking about running and gunning in Tokyo with a nursery rhyme theme on the hip-hop track, right? So anyway, that's why Asa is tier 5. I hope one day I get to see her up here and she becomes a legit woman rapper, right? Like Youngji, like Since, like Swervy, like all these amazing, K-hip-hop girls out there. And Asa's just I would love that for her, but she needs to be allowed to experiment. And when she is finally allowed to self-write, self-portray herself and experiment, it impresses us all. That's what I need. Anyway, Asa rant over. It's probably one of the longest single sections. I just need to get that out there because I want Asa to succeed. And with what YG's doing with her right now, she's not. Anyway, rest of Baby Monster. We've got Chiquita. She is also tier 6 with Ian. Much less to say about Chiquita here. She's just clearly a vocalist in her delivery, which is fine. Again, not all of Baby Monster are rappers. They're just vocalists who are being told to rap, and that's fine. She's been trained, as they say, and if you listen to Drip, it's quite obvious that she's just a vocalist, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to rap this part," and she's like, "Okay." Which is great for her, but yeah, I can't put her any higher than tier 6 at the moment. Rami will also be tier 6. Yeah. Rami needs to self-write. We're getting into a pattern here, right, with these lower idols down here. She needs to self-write and experiment with her delivery, which YG just doesn't let her do. Just like Shakita, she still has that YG trainee sound, which is just like, hey, make your voice super pungent and deep, because that's what a good rapper is, right? That's what YG tells all the girls to do. Also, articulation could be a little better. She's a bit not too articulative with her verses. Ruka will also put into tier 5 with Asa. I think Ruka is definitely the second strongest in Baby Monster, alongside Asa with the most potential. But again, Ruka needs to be allowed to self-write. It's a pattern in Baby Monster at this point. And that's the most important thing. She has a solid delivery, especially in Batter Up. And also Love in My Heart. Also very solid delivery as well. And she's experimented with flow a little bit as well, which is kind of surprising. But it needs to be more consistent. And we need to, see some actual hip-hop rapping that's outside of the girl group formula. Please, Baby Monster. Thank you. Moving on. Bad Villain. We only have one of the girls a Bad Villain because, honestly, Chloe is the most relevant and most important. And in this case, we're going to put Chloe up into tier 3 with Shin Jimin. Now, why? I know this is right after Baby Monster, so you're going to have a lot of Baby Monster fans going, how come Chloe is so high, but our girls are so much lower? Because YG's not holding Chloe back. Bad Villain's not a YG group, obviously, but you can hear that Chloe is being allowed to, be not only herself in her delivery, but she's writing for her other members at times and doing an entire verse and dishing it out. Think Stray Kids, how Changbin or Han will write an entire verse in Stray Kids, and then Changbin will take the first part, and then he'll give Hyunjin and Felix the second and third part of his verse. That's what Chloe does with Bad Villain. She would write the verse, and then she'll give, here you go, Emma, you can have this part. Here you go, Ina, you can have this part. And that's much cooler. That's really cool. And it's really progressive in terms of girl group writing. And the parts that she does write, she usually keeps the more difficult parts to herself. When you look at just Bad Villain or Hurricane, right? 2 songs from Bad Villain, the self-titled and Hurricane. There's some complexity to her parts. And a lot more than the girls that we've all talked about below her right now. So that gives her a lot of the edge to be a tier 3. She's not going to be getting any higher than tier 3 at this current pace. We need Bad Villain to kind of focus into rap a bit more. They had a lot of pre-debut stuff where it was like, oh my god, they're going to be rap heavy. And then, they kind of debuted and kind of barely rapped, especially in their most recent comeback. But we'll see. I hope we can get Chloe higher, just like Asa. I think Chloe and Asa would be really cool rivals to have, battling for who's the best girl group rapper. I think it'd be really cool to have them both up there one day, like a couple years from now. But we need their companies to be letting them do more. And it just so happens Chloe's allowed to do more right now about expressing herself, which at the end of the day is the most important part in rap to me. Okay, continuing on. We have Moon Sua from Billy, who we'll put into tier 3. And we can also talk about Shiyun at this point, who I would say Shiyun's tier 5. Moon Sua has shown more potential. You have collabs between them, right? In Old Billy, where they were covering some K-hip-hop groups, and they both sound amazing in these covers, right? They both sound really good and very technically proficient. And it just so happens Moon Sua has been allowed to have a bit more of the intricate roles per se, especially recently. But I mean, that's not to kid on to Shiyun. Shiyun's definitely been allowed some interesting parts like in Trampoline, right? But at the end of the day, it's Shiyun's clearly, idol told to rap, and Moon Sua's taking it a little farther than that, it seems. Hopefully we can get some cool stuff. Moon Sua has the whole second world stuff, like Shin Jimin has, right? Outside of Billy as a group, right? And her rap in Magician is really good. It's genuinely a really good rap with some cool wordplay, self-written and everything, and it shows a lot of potential from her in there. And she has a couple more like that in and outside of Billy. So Really cool for Moonsuha, and that's why she's 2 tiers higher than Shiyun. But again, not to kid on Shiyun, I think she's a very solid, like, lead rapper role in Billy behind Moonsuha. And I think they complement each other really well as a rap line. Okay, next up we got Jennie and Lisa. This is difficult, man. This is so difficult. Where do you put Jennie and Lisa, right? And at the end of the day, they're both tier 4. I've had them in the past higher up. I know people have them lower down. At the end of the day, the thing with Jennie and Lisa is YG. Similar to Bad Villain. And I really, or not Bad Villain, Baby Monster. And I don't want the same thing that happened to Jennie and Lisa to happen to Baby Monster. Which is, oh my God, I hear potential when they're rapping. And then you're just always asking, Jennie's going to have a new comeback. Is Jennie going to do an interesting rap? Is Lisa going to have a cool rap? And you're just always wondering about it and then kind of being let down a little bit and being like, oh, okay. Right? To the point where Jennie's about to have another comeback in a few weeks. Solo-wise. And collab with a bunch of people. And it's like, is she going to rap again? Are we going to get a good rap from Jennie now that she can do whatever she wants outside of YG? And everybody's kind of asking that. And you have, like, the Jennie believers who are like, yeah, she's going to. Of course, she loves rapping. She's one of the best rappers. And you have the Jennie non-believers who are like, I don't know. She hasn't done it to this point. Why would she do it now? So we'll have to see. If Jennie does come out with this album and gives us some insane rapping, I wholeheartedly believe she could be up a tier 2 even. 100%. But I'm doing this tier list right now, and the album's not out yet, so I can't really factor that in. Lisa, I think, has less of a chance to be up here. If Lisa just randomly dropped a heavy rap album, I mean, sure, I could see that happening. It's just like, there's not any talk about her dropping one. She just did release a brand new song with, who was it? Doja Cat and a few others? She just did this brand new song, didn't really rap too much, if at all. And yeah, I think Lisa has a very good argument to be fallen. Like, Lisa's trending more down here and be more of just a general pop star. If Jennie gives us some cool raps on this new album, she can definitely go up tier 3, possibly tier 2, depending on how good they are. But we'll have to see, because Jennie is 3 songs in, if you count Mantra, 3 songs in without an interesting rap yet. We've heard 3 pre-release songs and haven't had an interesting rapper. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Jennie and Lisa teach, they have very good raps in Blackpink. It's just we need to see what they're doing outside of YG, self-writing, and when they're doing their own thing, how good they can be. Okay, on to Fatu of Black Swan, who we'll put in tier 3. I think Fatu has a lot of potential, but her first, she's done 2 mixtapes, right? She's a more recent one with some very interesting raps, some very actually like intricate, impressive rapping, right? And then she has it feels like it takes a step down for the K-pop releases in Black Swan, because I mean, she's rapping on K-pop, and there's nothing too much going on in there in terms of complexity. But then you get to that first mixtape around the start of Black Swan, and she has like this OG original mixtape she did. There's a lot of weak raps on there. A lot of just like standard, teenager writing raps in their room type thing. And, it's cool. And I know a lot of people love it, and that's perfectly fine. But that's the biggest thing holding her back right now. You can really hear the potential in the newer mixtape, and hopefully she keeps on this trend, because that's what's holding her up this high, right? And hopefully she continues, and then even put some of that rapping into Black Swan songs. We get a little more of a heavier rap side from them, so that Fatu can show off a bit more. But for now, tier 3 seems like the accurate and good place for Fatu to be. Sunyu of Classy. So Sunyu is also on Second World. If you haven't seen the show, it was about a bunch of rapper idols, like female girl group rapper idols, who went on to this competition, and we're supposed to show how they're all rounders, right? So I was hoping it'd be more of a rap show. They only rapped on the first episode, but you got to see all like everybody was on there. Jimin, Moonsua, Sunyu in this case. Even Yeon was on there. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly. But actually, I could be wrong about that. She might not have been. I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to Yeon in a second. Sunyu showed a lot of potential in this show, and that's why the main reason she's tier 5 right now is because of that. Because everything inside of Classy, even onto their recent stuff, she barely raps, y'all. But like she had a like what's the song called? I forgot what the song was called. But in that first episode of Second World, she did the song. It sounded really raw, really like, unpolished delivery especially, but then like the flow she was going for, like you could hear that she wanted to do these really cool things and it just wasn't necessarily fully there to where it was kind of just a simple thing that sounded a bit rough around the edges. If she ever polishes that up and gets the opportunity in Classy to show off these like interesting things, I could definitely see her going higher. But right now she doesn't get to do anything in Classy as a rapper, and it is what it is. But again, she's also still super young, so time to tell. Hopefully we get to see it one day, but for now, tier 5, and she's not tier 6 because of Second World. Whew. Okay, let's move on to Yeon of CLC. Yeon's also in tier 3. However, she is on the edge to be pushed down a bit. She's been soloing a bit more since CLC kind of all went their separate ways. And she hasn't really shown anything rap-wise, right? Like, how do I explain this? She has a lot of really cool raps with interesting rhyme schemes in CLC. Outside of CLC, she hasn't really done anything. And how far can you go into CLC raps? I don't know. I'm guessing, I guess, I think she's usually around tier 3 in the lists that I do. I can't you could like check my old years. I don't know if she's moved up or down. But right now I kind of view her as this tier 3 area, with Moonsua, Chloe, Jimin, and Fatu. She's very similar to Jimin, but Jimin and her are a little bit opposite. Jimin has stronger reps outside of AOA, whereas I could argue Yeon has stronger reps inside of CLC than Jimin does in AOA. So they're kind of opposites in that regard. You can also like look at their voices. Yeon has a bit of a slightly deeper voice, even though they're both on the higher end. But still, I think that's a really good way of looking at it for Yeon. Would love to see a solo hip hop album from her. I don't know if it's ever gonna happen, but that would be cool, right? Okay, let's move on to the Craxy girls. We've got Karin and Ua of Craxy. So Karin will start with Karin in tier 4. She's shown some potential and had some actually interesting verses in Craxy. Like actually quite a couple. If you look at some of the best raps of the year, I don't think it was any in 2024 that Craxy had, but 2023 Craxy had some pretty intricate rapping going on in their songs. And I don't think the girls rate themselves too much. I think they rate a little bit, but just overall, Karin has shown quite a bit in Craxy in general, which is always really cool to see. However, I should know a bit more. I think if you look at both of their top tier raps, Uwas just kind of always have a little more intricacy going on, whereas Karin has a little more of a popular delivery, I would argue. Uwa tends to have the more intricate raps between the two. Again, if you've never heard of Craxy and you're just kind of watching along with me, like, who the fuck is he talking to? Highly recommend checking out Craxy. They have some really good hip hop oriented songs. Not necessarily like the most intricate rapping. Like you're not listening to BTS rapping when you're listening to a Craxy hip hop song. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, they both do some cool things over some verses, especially compared to other girl groups between the two. So let's go into a more Nugu group here. We have Nature of the group Dio Wings. Now, I'm sure a lot of people who are just chilling along the video right here haven't even heard of Nature before. And they're like, why is she on this list? What is she? Like, she's not relevant. And it's like, yeah, she's not that relevant. Dio Wings is not that popular of a group. But the reason she's on here is because she's one of the better rappers in K-pop amongst girl groups. We're going to put our first tier 2 idol for the girl groups. And just in general, our first tier 2 idol for the video. Nature is really cool. She's in this very small group called Dio Wings, and if you listen to them expecting like YG or SM Productions, like you're not gonna get that because they're all are they self-produced? Actually, if there are any Dio Wings fans, please let me know in the comments. They might not fully be self-produced, but like they're fully independent of a company, right? They do everything themselves. They're all just like normal ass girls in Korea who are like office workers and shit. Really cool because they're just making their own stuff. So you have like this genuine person, Nature, who's like writing raps because she wants to rap. It's not some company telling her she needs to rap. She's doing it because she wants to be the rapper, and that's so cool. You get some really cool raps in the songs "Filter" and "The Feeling" from Nature. "Filter" has a lot of really cool syncopations that go on during it. If you're looking for that in a rap verse, which most of the rappers down here, I don't think any of them have ever even tried syncopated rap verses in their songs. But beyond that, "The Feeling" has like some actual really cool delivery aspects to it as well. Go check out both of those songs if you're looking for some interesting things. She's also the fastest female rapper in K-pop. If you didn't know, she has an originally self-written verse on a cover of Dance Monkey, and I mean it's not the best live work. Like you could definitely hear the choppiness in the live version. There's only the live version, but yeah, it's pretty good. She's definitely tier 2 at this moment. I think just the group in general getting like professional production, like more professional production, would go a long way into her actual rapping. But I mean, I think she's done so much. She's already tier 2 at the point where Dio Wings is. Now I gotta get controversial again. We've got Dami. I'm gonna put her in tier 5. And this pains me. I love Dreamcatcher, okay? And I was a Dami believer for the longest time. And if you go back and check my old tier list and stuff, and when I'm talking about Dami, I think you can hear this throughout the past couple years especially. But it's like, she hasn't given us anything, right? She hasn't. Since the Scream album, with the really cool raps like Red Sun and Black and White, right? We have some really cool raps from Dami. And then you can go even before then. She has really cool raps to the Dreamcatcher discography. Just in general, very good work. And in the past couple years, it's just slacked. And you can even go back to the Mason album where they all got their own. It wasn't Mason. I think it was Mason. They all got their own solos, right? And what did Dami give us? This like really cool, intricate hip hop where she gets to show off a rap? No, she gave us a pop rock song. What? And that's kind of a big nail in the coffin for me. I mean, she's had some decent verses in recent years, like Mason, like because I think, but none of it's ever like, oh my god, none of it like, right? It's along the same points of Giselle and Karina's best works. And it's like, if you're not going to give a verse that's tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 levels in the past 5 years, it's like, can I really put you at tier 1, 2, 3? I can't. So yeah, I'm hoping the next Dreamcatcher comeback we get a really cool Dami verse that's not just focused on how deep her voice is, which I feel like is a lot of Dami fans. A lot of y'all love Dami for her deep voice, which I appreciate, and subjectively, it's really cool. But I can't just like be like, oh yeah, she's tier 2 because her voice, Where would that's not what this list is about. So yeah. It pains me because I do love Dreamcatcher. I've been into Dreamcatcher since pre-debut, right? You could go check my videos back then. I was definitely reacting to them, but I need something really cool from Dami to get her bumped up. She does not have the career standing to be higher at this point, and it's a shame because she's a really cool rapper, but she just doesn't do much in terms of intricacies and complexities in her verses. So, yeah, let's move on to Everglow. After I take a sip. Okay. So we have Everglow's Asha and EU. I do specifically remember a couple Everglow fans being really adamant that Everglow are like top tier rappers, and I couldn't disagree more. They have a few decent verses, but there's never been an Everglow verse to really blow your mind in terms of the intricacies between the flow, the rhyme schemes, the lyrics, any of that really. Beyond that, they rarely self-write. They have a couple times, but it's not often enough to really put too much meaning into it. And I don't know. EU is a tier higher than Asha. You can look at there's this recent live show EU did, which was pretty cool. It had a pretty cool verse, and if we could get that on a more consistent basis, we could definitely see EU climb this tier list, right? I think she has the potential. It is there. It's just it's kind of on the company. But if you're only releasing new music every 2 years, it's kind of hard, and especially when you release new music and you're not even rapping on it, it's kind of hard to make the argument that she should be higher. Especially in a list based in so much recency. She's had this really cool live verse. It was like a live show only verse that she self wrote, and it's really cool, and that's why she's still in tier 5 and not tier 6 with Asha. But at the end of the day, if Everglow's company's not going to let them release new music, like EU, hop on SoundCloud. Give us some just minute-long rap verses that you're writing in your bedroom at night when you're just chilling. Like, let's see what you got. You're not coming back. Let's show off a bit. That would be my thing for Everglow. Asha, always super simple, straightforward raps. She's very much carried by her deeper aesthetic. Which don't get me wrong, it is rare for girl groups. You really only get that with Fatu does that, Dami does that, right? So it's on the rare side, and I get why people love it. CL does it, but in general, it's just you're not doing the bars and lyricism and rhyme schemes that Fatu or CL or Dami are doing at this point. It's extremely straightforward, and it's yeah. Okay. Moving on, we have EXID's Ellie. Should she be on the list? Because EXID have been inactive for years, and Ellie hasn't done anything solo-wise. You can make the argument that she shouldn't be on here. Just in general, not because she's too bad or something, but just that she's not a K-pop rapper anymore, right? She's just more of a producer. And if we don't get anything new from her this year, we'll probably end up taking her off next year. But for now, I'll leave her on as a tier 3 rapper. She is very good. Her EXID stuff is obviously really good. Like CL, she did a lot to influence the current, scene of girl group rapping. But, if you're not giving us new verses, you're just writing for Tri B. And the stuff you're ready for Tri B isn't the most intricate stuff in the world. It's I can't really put you up in tier 2, even though you don't get me wrong. See, Ellie, if you had to put just all time, Ellie's definitely top 5 for girl group rappers all time. But right now, I gotta put her in tier 3 with the other girls up here. We gotta hear something new from Ellie, and have it be really intricate and interesting. It's been a minute, and I'm very much missing that. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to Yezi of Fiestar, who recently had a comeback, but it was just a redoing their old song. Yezi, we're gonna put in tier 2. She's basically just living on the No Name verse right now from a few years ago. Go check that out. Yezi No Name. Insane verse, really good verse. And that's basically what she's living on right now, because Fiestar's comeback, they just redid the song, like I said, so she didn't give us a new verse. And then beyond that, it's just she hasn't done too much in recent years, just like Ellie. I would love to see a brand new hip-hop centric album from her. I mean, honestly, if there's some really good rapping, it could even push her up to number 1, in tier 1, but I'm not really expecting that from Yezi. I would just love something new. It's been a minute, and we're starting to see Yezi kind of, fall down the list a bit. the tier list with Ellie, and maybe be down here where Ellie's off the list next year. It could be something like this because Yezi might just kind of disappear, and I don't want that. She just had a comeback and live shows with Fiestar. Please give us some new stuff, Yezi. She has some really good stuff though from years past. Do not get me wrong. Cider and Crazy Dog and so many cool things from Unpretty Rap Star too. Was it 2 or 3? Fuck. It's one of the Unpretty Rap Stars she was on, right? She has some really cool stuff. It might have been 3. She has some really cool stuff from there, and then obviously her solos from recent years, like Mimu and Angsuna Moon and No Name. Really good stuff. Okay, Soyeon. Miss Soyeon is tier 2. But Matt, why isn't she tier 1? Because she hasn't been doing anything. She's all focused on production now, which is really cool. Don't get me wrong. Female producers in K-pop, hell yeah, let's get more of them. I want to see more girl groups self-producing, especially on the level that Soyeon does. But obviously with her new project of producing for P Nation's new girl group, right, and for all she does for Idol and everything, she really doesn't focus on writing raps, and you can really hear it in the past year. It's like her mama rap was really cool. Don't get me wrong, really cool live mama rap from November. Outside of that, in this past year, what did she do? Nothing. Like, all of her raps were very straightforward, very basic, very pop friendly. And it's like, there's a time and place for all of them. Don't get me wrong. But, it's been a couple years now since we've had a rap from Soyeon that's really mind blowing. I mean, you can argue Play Bulldog. But that was like a 2-bar verse, and it was just 1 bar that was really cool. And you could argue that maybe she didn't even write it. There's no credits on it. Then there's stuff like Dark X-File, that was really cool, but that's coming up on 3 years ago. That's gonna be 3 years ago this year, right? And that's like the last really cool thing. The Villain Dies and BBN coming up 4 years. Is it 3 years ago? 4 years ago? It's like the years are getting up there now. Like the Klaxon verse, the Super Lady verse, Wife verses. None of them are like mind blowing. None of them are intricate. They're all pretty straightforward K-pop verses. So I can't justify putting her in tier 1. I do still think that she is on top amongst the girl groups. I think that there's competition for that number 1 spot now, but she'd still be number 1 if I was ordering this left to right, which I am not. But if I'm ordering it left to right, Soyeon would still be number 1. But it's been a minute since we've had a really impressive Soyeon verse, and I really need that this year. So please, Soyeon, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, 1 second. Let me recoup my voice real quick. It's been 50 minutes of recording. Whew, and we're not even halfway done. Just gotta throw the bottle out real quick. Anyway, this is gonna be a long video. Nice. I chillin' Junie. Okay. So, a lot of you are gonna see this and be like, what the hell? But hear me out. She's tier 5. What? She's not tier 6? What is she? What has ever I chillin' done? Junie was on the brand new replacement of Show Me the Money, right? Mnet was like, okay, Show Me the Money ain't getting views. We're going to do a new one. It was like Rap Public. Don't get me wrong. She is not a K-hip hop rapper. She was quite clearly one of the weakest rappers on that show. But the other rappers on that show are all aspiring K-hip hop rappers and professional K-hip hop rappers. And she hanging with the big dogs and doing some decent verses, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Again, these aren't like insane verses by any means. But you can literally hear her develop on that show. From the first episode through the last time you see her, like, you actually get flashes of actual rapping. You actually get to see her go from, it's idol rapping to, she's putting some of herself into that. And it's really cool to see. Hopefully what she learned on Rap Public and everything kind of translates to what she does on iChillin', and they give her some more opportunities. But at the end of the day, they've had a comeback since Rap Public and she didn't do anything. And if she continues to not do anything, she's going to fall right back down into tier 6. Oops, sorry, into tier 6. But right now, solid tier 5 for Junie. Really cool with what she's done in Rap Public, and I hope it translates to iChillin'. Moving on, we've got ITZY Girls, Ryujin and Yuna. I'm at the point where I can't be huffing on copium my entire ITZY life. They've been around 6 years and they've never done anything super interesting. No matter how hard I try to find super interesting verses, they're both tier 6 at this point. I think a lot of people like to compare Ryujin and Giselle. I hate doing that. I thought for the longest time they were about equal. And I can't convince myself of that anymore. Giselle is at least doing features on K-hip-hop tracks, like Skirt, whereas Ryujin's kind of just doing very simple K-pop raps in ITZY. And she'll have a song here or two that goes, ooh, okay, Ryujin, and it never goes anywhere. The rap verse never goes anywhere. Yuna in like #20, that's like her best thing. Like they're very clearly not rappers, and you're trying to make them more than they are. It's like Ryujin's really had multiple opportunities to go off. Like she's literally had a solo and like even like hip hop oriented ITZY songs, and the closest to like an impressive rap we've ever gotten is Bet on Me. Like I don't know. I think that says a lot for Ryujin. As for Yuna, like I said, #20 is still probably her best, which is also ironically her fastest, which does not correlate. Fast does not equal best, but I don't know. It's like if that's this thing you're showing your most promise with, like, I don't know. Again, you could clearly tell they're both idol rappers, and I can't be huffing the copium of they're gonna give us something good one day. They're gonna give us something good one day. It only lasts for so long, and I'm at the point where I'm just like, you know what? If you guys want to be higher, give me something cool. Excuse me. I'm just kind of getting over a cold. That's why this video took so long to come out. Let's continue. We've got the IVE girls, who I think can pretty simply just both be in tier 6 as well. IVE, again, never do anything too complex, intricate, or hip-hop oriented. You have some cool Ray verses that are self-written, like Royal, where she has like a swingy flow to her almost, which is pretty cool. Afterlike is another standout for her, but at the end of the day, she hasn't like done anything to improve on these, right? Both of them are pretty much older IVE songs, and every time you hear, like, Ray's more popular for her TikToks of being a cute, silly girl group idol, right? Than actually a rapper. And that's fine, but it's like you can't really have the expectation that Ray's up here when she's not doing anything to be up there. And I think everybody would like kind of agree that Ray is a better rapper than Gal. So it's pretty obvious that she's down here. I mean, she has stuff like Afterlike and Hypnosis as well. She has her bright spots. Don't get me wrong, but her, again, in the pattern with tier 6, very just idol centric rapping. Nothing, everything pretty straightforward. And the couple of self-written verses from her are cool. It's just, yeah, it needs to be more consistent and more, continuous to like actually have her move up a bit. Hopefully we get that from IVE one day. But again, with the recent comeback of a couple weeks ago and them still not having any like super interesting raps, it's hard to make that claim. So let's go to Kep1er, who will also put into tier 6, more idols. I think Diane is very quite clearly an idol who the company was like, hey, we need you to be the rapper. And she was like, okay. Hikaru, I was a heavy believer in. Oh my god, I have an entire video hyping up Hikaru on Kep1er's debut, because I thought Hikaru would be an insanely talented rapper. Because she has pre-debut stuff to back it up, where she was auditioning with self-written verses that actually had some potential. But the thing is, Kep1er and their company do not let these girls self-write. And it's like, yeah, like Hikaru showed potential in covers back in the pre-debut stuff, but it's like, it's never translated to Kep1er, and I can't bump her up and say, oh, you're tier 3, you're tier 4, because of stuff you did 5 years ago pre-debut. It's like, it doesn't work like that. And then Diane, I don't think we've seen really anything super impressive from Diane. I mean, like, yeah, like Up is a fun verse from her. Sync Love is a cool verse with a pretty interesting delivery, but again, it's just idol rapping. Okay, let's go into another controversial one. We have Kiss of Life's Julie, who I will put okay, this is interesting. I think Julie is at this point tier 4. I think that is a basis to be made that she is higher. I think a lot of the hype that she gets is this general uneducated opinion of, oh, former YG trainee. That means that she is insanely talented at rap, which I think is an extremely slippery slope and very unhealthy mindset to judge rappers through of like, oh, are they a YG trainee? Tier 1, you know? She's shown some potential. She's had some interesting deliveries. At the end of the day, most of her rapping is pretty straightforward. She has that, sexy girl group deep voice, right? That, that Dami, let's talk about Dami CL type, YG delivery. She has the YG delivery, the CL delivery, okay? And a lot of people really eat that up. And, to each their own. I understand subjectively why people enjoy Jolie and her voice and everything. And like at the end of the day, she's like, she's going to get her flowers from fans. And I have yet to see her do anything uber impressive to really earn herself a higher placement than tier 4 at the moment, at least. Again, very young group of Kiss of Life. Hopefully we get some solos and stuff that really bump her up higher. But right now I think solid tier 4 is where she is at. Until we get, a more unique style from her. Okay, let's continue. We've got Moonbull. I think this is pretty straightforward. I do have a little rant because people are going to be like, she is tier 2 is too clearly. She's tier 3. The reason she is tier 3 and not tier 2 is because she hates rapping. She is very talented, do not get me wrong. She has a lot of skill and potential, but she will never display it on her own volition because she isn't a rapper. She is an idol. She's a singer who was told, hey, you gotta rap, and did the best she freaking could. And don't get me wrong, she has some really good verses. She really, really, really does. A lot of really solid verses where she consistently has like good stuff going on. Songs like Diamond and Bad Bye. But at the end of the day, even though she has some and these aren't like, top tier verses by any means, but amongst girl group rappers, like, yeah, like those are some of the better verses. But if she's saying like, hey, I'm going to solo and do pop and K-pop and not make it hip hop style, it's like, it really lowers her a bit. Again, I think a big thing of being like tier 0, tier 1 is you're sitting in your room at 10 p.m. writing a rap verse because you just got inspired by something. And to me, Moonbull is not somebody who does that because at the end of the day, she's an idol and not a rapper, and it has to deduct her a bit for me. We've also not really had any new insane verses from her in quite a few years because of that, which also deducts her a bit. But again, very much skillful, very insane. If she just suddenly had the passion to be a rapper one day, I'm sure she could jump all the way up. I have no doubt. Okay, we've got Mimi of Oh My Girl, who we'll put into tier 2. I think she's a very heavily slept on rapper. Even recently, she's had some good verses, like in the song La La La. Very good rap. Or like her rap, she was on the show Second World as well that I was talking about with the other female idols on here, right? And she has a really good rap on the Second World episode 1 where they all rapped, right? Very good self-written rap for her on there. She has a huge, just solid foundation, I guess I should say, of really good raps, even from title tracks. Like the recent one, Classified, right? And you was recent as Classified and La 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 on this new album. or go all the way back to the early years and like stuff like Knock Knock, where she's rapping over her own acapella beat. Really cool, very innovative, especially for the time. And there's some more really good raps from back then that Mimi was also doing back in early Gen 3. Or I guess mid to late Gen 3's Oh My Girl. But anyway, very cool stuff from Mimi. Very slept on rapper, and a lot of people just don't know the cool stuff that she does in and outside of the group of Oh My Girl. Whoo! Yuki of Purple Kiss. Okay, here's the thing with Yuki. Lots of freaking potential that has never been fulfilled. In her first album or two of Purple Kiss, Yuki was like, oh my god, this girl is crazy. She could be really good. And she's just never hit that point again. She stopped self-writing a lot. And a lot of it is because she's kind of an LZ7 up, right? A lot of it's because of that, probably. But she's rarely self-writing. When she does, is not as intricate or advanced as it was during her debut years, like Cast Pearls Before Swine and raps like that, right? And you'll get a cool Purple Kiss Yuki rap every now and then, but it's like, she's not getting to self-write in her second group. She's not really self-writing in Purple Kiss anymore. We're barely getting decently length raps from her, and it's very sad because Purple Kiss Yuki used to be so hyped as one of like the best late 4th gen rappers for girl groups, and we just haven't heard anything in quite a few years now from her, at least of Complex Substance. Moving on to Red Velvet's Irene. Pretty much a vocalist who raps. She is tier 6. Just very much general. It's like, I think it's quite obvious, like, she's a singer who SM told to rap. She has a really cool rap verse in like Campfire and a few other songs, but it's like, it's definitely not enough for her to be higher than tier 6 at the end of the day. And I think everyone's pretty well tuned to the fact that she's probably down here. Ginny of Secret Number. Okay, so here's the thing with Ginny. Ginny's shown a hell of a lot of potential throughout the years on her SoundCloud. She has a bunch of really good rapping on her SoundCloud. Don't get me wrong. And if you go check it out, like there's some like, of all style. There's some trap styling, like with a bunch of like vocal effects. There's some more straightforward rapping as well. But in Secret Number, she doesn't really do that. She has very straightforward K-pop raps. I would love for the SoundCloud stuff that she self-writes to translate over to Secret Number, and Secret Number to just get more comebacks than they currently do, because they're very quiet recently. But yeah, she definitely needs more opportunities to really show what she's gotten, and really be able to show off. We just need her to show off more. That's really what it comes down to. Hyo of SNSD. Yeah, she's tier 6. In general, like, I think she's like pretty obvious, more dance focused than rapping, and at this point, kind of even vocal focused. You can find some cool rapping verses, like in You Think and Step Back. But in general, it's like it's not like you listen to a song with Hyo and expect a cool rap verse, right? She's kind of like an idol who raps because she has to at times, and that's kind of the theme of tier 6 here, if you couldn't tell. Hyunbin of Tribe B could be much higher than what I'm about to put her, but because Ellie's writing all the stuff for her, which is quite good and kind of gets her to where she is, don't get me wrong, it also holds her back just slightly because we're not getting the full Hyunbin experience. She's writing basically Ellie written verses, and you have some good ones in Tribe B, but at the end of the day, they're not Hyunbin written verses. How much weight can you put into that being Hyunbin versus Ellie? You can't put that much into it. We need some Hyunbin self-writing and more Tribe B comebacks in general. Actually, I don't think she had a rap on the last one. On Diamond, I don't think she rapped. I could be wrong though. It's been a year. Whoo! let's continue. Sorry, I just need to rest my throat real quick. Chaeyoung. Here's the thing. Chaeyoung's tier 6. If your best rap is from pre-debut and you've been around for 10 years, how can I not put you in tier 6? And it's like, it's not even like that pre-debut rap is like insane or anything. Like, it's honey. It's just like, oh, spicy JYP song that she rapped on that nobody expected, right? She is very simple, straightforward thing. I think the best comparison is if you listen to Chaeyoung rapping twice and then you listen to Megan Thee Stallion on Strategy. Even though it's not Megan Thee Stallion's best verse by any means, you can clearly hear what Megan, especially in that flow change, is able to do in a Twice song compared to Chaeyoung or even Dahyun, who I would also argue is down here. Again, you have like a song called like Likey, right? And it's like, cool, flow change, ooh, chakama chakama da na 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 na, right? And then it goes back to her and Chaeyoung go on a more fast pace. Cool flow change, spicy. Subjectively, I love it a lot. But at the end of the day, there's nothing like intricate about it. And it's like that's the most notable thing Dahyun's done rap-wise. It's like, again, known her for a decade, and yet I still don't think we've had anything even close to complex for Dahyun of Twice. Okay, we are wrapping up the girl group side of this. We've got Exy of WJSN. It's been a hot minute since we've gotten a WJSN rap, and honestly, I'm gonna put her in tier 3. She's had some solid written verses, and she usually has quite an interesting rap in and outside of WJSN. You can look at songs like Diamonds, off of Second World, and like Love Therapy, again, another idol in Second World. Diamonds, Love Therapy with Eunha, I believe her name was. Very cool rapping on there. But then you also get into WJSN, and one of the things that a lot of the girls below her lack is like, even though you have some cool stuff outside the group, inside the group it usually gets more simple. She usually does have quite a few interesting verses on WJSN tracks. Now, at the end of the day, I need more WJSN comebacks. I need more stuff, like longer verses from her, which is hard to do because WJSN is like this huge group, right? With lots of members who need their own lines and song time, right? And that's kind of where line distribution comes into all this. But at the end of the day, Exy does have quite a bit of impressive raps and an impressive discography of rap verses to go and listen to in and outside of WJSN. I just, if she wants to be higher, I just need some more WJSN comebacks with some longer verses from her. Maybe split the group up a bit more and give her some more, time to shine. It's like a verse that's longer than 2 bars. And that can definitely get her higher. But again, what she's able to do inside of WJSN is no joke, and genuinely some of like the better stuff, like on the same level as Moonbyul and inside of Mamamoo and even like Yeon inside of CLC. It's just she's more in a cutesy group, and people don't really pay attention to cutesy rapping as much. Yubin of Wonder Girls. We'll also put into tier 3. Again, another idol. I believe she was on Second World. I could be wrong. She goes back to the second gen with CL and Hyuna, and she's one of the older idols that are still around and has a couple solid verses. Again, you can make a really solid argument that she should be tier 4 because she hasn't rapped too much recently. But at the end of the day, I'm fine keeping her in tier 3, or for now at least. We'll see if she does anything this year, and if she does do some really cool stuff, we could keep her here, even bump her up. But at the end of the day, I think she's solidly here. You could make an argument for her being 1 tier lower, and I wouldn't really disagree with you. We just need some more stuff from you, Ben. A lot of this is we need more stuff from you, especially with the older girls on here. Doan of Young Posse, and just all the Young Posse girls in general, they're not this bottom tier, do not worry. But we'll go through them real quick. Doan, we're going to put into tier 4. Doan's had a lot of interesting flows, especially like Mac and Cheese and Loading is another one. She'll deliver us some like actually like pretty interesting raps. And they're pretty thought out. And it's really like a pattern with all of these Young Posse girls right here, right? I don't have the Maknae on here, and I don't have the vocalist on here because we're doing rappers only, and neither of them are technically rappers, even though they do rap. But we'll have the three, Yoonjung, Doan, and Sunye. So Doan has shown a lot of potential. Who's shown even more potential is Yeonjung, who we'll put into tier 3. Yeonjung has a lot of delivery, spiciness, and changes to her verses. She has a lot of very interesting written verses and stuff like Rookie of the Year and stuff like Posse Up and stuff like OTB, stuff like that. And it's really cool because Young Posse do self-write, especially Yeonjung and Sunye, a lot. And they're definitely only come up if you're looking for a good girl group rapping. They have some really good verses. But that is all, topped off with our number 1 spot. For Sunye. Amongst the three of them, at least. Sunye is up in this tier 2 amongst girl group rappers. Oh my god. She's literally been around about the same amount of time Baby Monster has, right? And she has so many, like, really well-written, self-written raps. Rookie of the Year, Loading, Posse Up. She worked with Bobby on a feature. I mean, I'll get to that in a second, but just her self-written stuff on Young Posse is really cool. Ate that with this insanely cool rhyme scheme. She has so many interesting flows, so many self-reflecting lyrics, which I think is so cool to hear in a girl group, because you don't hear self-reflection in girl groups as much now, ever really. And it's really refreshing to hear from Sunye. And then you have some amazing rhyme schemes like in Ate That, with one of the best rhyme schemes of last year, with the entire bar is basically self-rhyming within each syllable. So cool. Beyond that, she's collabed with so many actual hip-hop artists, between, actual like K-hip-hop artists that are in Young Posse groups and working with her and getting to know who she is, to Western hip-hop rappers that are working with Young Posse as well, and her being invited onto a Bobby track that I alluded to before, right? Bobby literally went out of his way to be like, yo, I like your rapping, come feature on one of my tracks, right? And they did a song called True Love together, with Ovan, a K R&B artist as well. So cool. She's literally being like, called out, I guess, by Bobby in terms of like, hey, she's legit. And I truly think I one of the best things about Young Posse is that they're not being trained as idol rappers. They're just kind of being told, hey, you want to rap? Go for it. And they being allowed to experiment with their own sounds, ideas, themes, and expression. And that is the best part of rapping for me. And something that a lot of K-pop rapping is missing, especially in lower tiers. And Young Posse is doing that, especially Sunye. And I think that she has done the most in terms of cool flows and stuff like Rookie of the Year, stuff like cool rhyme schemes in terms of Ate That, and stuff like lyricism in Loading, and so many cool different things. So many. And I could not be... Young Posse is the girl group I am the most excited for rap-wise because of those reasons. It's not a manufactured company rapping. It is actual self-expression from Korean girls who might not have had this opportunity to be rappers, and they're getting to actually express themselves. And it's really refreshing to hear. Okay. If you've made it this far, congratulations. I appreciate you being here. We're going to get into the boys' side of things. That's all the girl group rappers on here for now. Whew, just give me a second to catch my breath real quick, and then we're going to dive into all the boy groups down here. Okay. I think I'm ready. We're going to start with 8's turn. And I'm going to put both of the 8 turn boys into tier 4. I think both Youngyu and Sunghoon in the both right have had their fair share of quote unquote impressive verses, right? But at the same time, it's not like, I could pull up an 8 turn song or just randomly put one on and be like, whoa, that rap was so cool, like I can for a lot of like the tier 0, 1, 2 people, right? They're not quite there yet. And that's okay. Again, still a young group that have been around, 2 years maybe. But, you know, again, you can pull up a 8-turn song and you can still be able to be quite impressed by their rapping on a fairly consistent basis, which gets them to tier 4 and over top of tier 5 and 6 down here. And that'll bring us to Woojin of AB6. And Woojin will put into our tier 2 up here with the girls. I think a lot of this is his solo album from 2023 had a lot of really insane rapping, but then you can, like, you know, it's less of the 101 stuff and more of the AB6 songs, and especially the solos. He's definitely been coming up more and more. Stuff like Savior from AB6, Compensation, Color Eye, like these verses are kind of what set him apart. Especially from his 101 days when I think he was a little bit overrated back in 101. Don't get me wrong, but he has definitely come his own way since becoming an 86 member and doing solos and stuff. And again, that recent album from I guess coming up with 2 years ago, is the main staple that's holding him up this time. Whew, okay, let's go with the All Hours boys. I'm just gonna start from the bottom and work our way up. We've got Masami of All Hours. We'll put into tier 6. Masami in general is a very straightforward rapper on All Hours tracks. A very straightforward style, not too intricate or anything like that. Especially when you compare it to the other 2 rappers we're about to talk about from All Hours, Zayden and Hyunbin, and what they're able to do on tracks like Shock and blah blah. It doesn't. Masami just doesn't really do anything too intricate especially when you compare it to the other 2 members of All Hours. But then we can get into Zayden and Hyunbin. So first Zayden, we're gonna put into tier 4. And you know what? We'll also put Hyunbin into tier 4. I think they can both go into tier 4. At the end of the day, they're both have some. The song I pointed out with Masami, right? Blah blah, really cool rap, one of the best raps of last year, and I think the All Hours boys do have a lot of potential, but it's not consistent yet. It's very inconsistent. You have some of these flashes like in blah blah, but you need to be hearing that multiple times for every comeback to be really up tier 1, tier 2, tier 0, and we just haven't heard that yet. Again, still a very fresh young group, but yeah, and then also, you know, they didn't really write blah blah as well. I would love to see them self-write the really interesting stuff. But you know, it comes with time, and we'll see where they can get in a couple of years. Because All Hours, again, still very fresh group. Astro's Jinjin. Now, there's a meme in my community that Jinjin's the best rapper in K-pop because King's Choice did a poll, and Astro fans got Jinjin all the way to that number 1 spot, and I'm just like, what? Are you kidding? You have it number 1? Yeah, he's not the best rapper in K-pop by any means. I don't think he's tier 6 or 5 either. He does have some merit, especially in like a couple of his solos from last year, or a couple. I don't know if he soloed more than once, but there was a solo last year that he did end up having an interesting verse in, and that'll get him to tier 4. I think it's hard to get him higher, especially when he's kind of had the full reins of Astro since Rocky departed from the group, right? And he hasn't really done anything. You know, there might be a case to be made that he's tier 3 though, but I don't know. I think you could make the case that he's tier 3, but the biggest thing for me is, like, you know, Rocky's gone from the group and he hasn't really taken over the reins of doing the impressive stuff that Rocky did, and that's the kind of the kicker for me that brings him down a bit to tier 4. Even with a couple of impressive solos from last year. ATEEZ! You know what? I think it's time. I think it's time we finally put someone in this tier freaking 1 category. And it's Hongjung. He had an amazing year this past year, especially, but the past 2 years, Hongjung's been on a high. Like, this dude, oh my god, he's released some of the best stuff in the past 2 years. Before the past 2 years, like, he was always like this consistently like fringe tier 3, tier 2 person in my head. He was concentrating more on production than rapping itself. But recently, it's like you look at songs like freaking Eeny Meeny, one of the best rap verses of 2024 in general, between the flows, the rhyme schemes, the lyrics, the wordplay, all of it. It's so good. It's really clean. It's a clean verse. And he did such a good job on it in that song. It is such a good verse. So if you haven't heard it, go check it out. But there's also some other stuff from just last year, like Blind, and the insane delivery in that. But then also like New World, and oh my god, he's just done so much. You can even go back to January and like the diss track he did, allegedly to the CEO of Hive, which is kind of cool. I don't think it's anything too much to know, but at the end of the day, it's kind of cool always to hear a diss track from a K-pop idol. So I think Hongjung, representing tier 1, first idol up there, well deserved. He's done really well. But however, Mingi has also come up in recent years. A lot of really cool stuff in recent years. I think ATs have really honed in on their focus for their rap line, and Mingi we're gonna put into tier 2 though. I don't think he's done quite as much as Hongjung in terms of the actual like the intricacies of his verses. He's had some really good verses in stuff like, you know, in this recent album, Empty Box, insanely good rhyme scheme. Shaboom, insanely good delivery. Arriba, insanely good delivery, right? Oh my god, Arriba's delivery is so good. Deep Dive is another good one from the recent album. But then you can even go to older stuff like To The Beat. He had one of his better verses on. He's had some really cool rap verses throughout the years, and it's just, especially in recent years, him and Hongjung have just been. But I think Hongjung is a tier above Mingi at this point. However, if you had asked me 5 years ago, I think Mingi was the better rapper between the two. But nowadays, I gotta give it to Hongjung. Hongjung is just insane these past 2 years. I'm just like, every time ATEEZ comes back, I'm just like, I'm excited to hear what Hongjung is gonna come up with. Okay. Let's continue. We have Jungkook of BAP. We're gonna put Jungkook into tier 3. Jungkook, he's got a lot of solid verses. Don't get me wrong, okay? Like, even in recent years, you can look at like Movie Miento, and you just like can easily find solid verses from Jungkook and his very iconic deep voice. But at the same time, you can hear a lot of like weaker raps in his portfolio, with stuff like Bad. Look, he's a great lyricist at times, especially in BAP music and older BAP songs. He has some really good lyrical verses. But he's got some weak points, and he has a lot of solid stuff. And I think that averages itself out to tier 3, especially amongst the fact that he doesn't do too much recently of like super impressive stuff. So, we'll have Jungkook in tier 3. Next up is his bandmate Zelo, who I will actually put 1 tier higher than Jungkook because of his recent stuff, especially. Not again, everybody thinks of Zelo BAP. Oh my god, the fast little boy from Warrior. No, he's actually like insanely good. Like, he started doing some solos and like even features in these past 2 years since he's been back from the military, and oh my god, he's been outstanding. It's really refreshing to hear. I can't wait for BAP to have like a full, like, you know, traditional BAP sounding thing again, and hear how Zelo and Jungkook have changed over the past decade plus. Moving on, we will go into some Big Bang. So, TOP, Mr. Oh god, what was his name? Thanos. I've had a lot of people commenting on my Thanos or my TOP videos about, oh my god, this is Thanos of Hunger Games. It's really cute, but I don't have him on here because he's technically not in Big Bang anymore. So we just have G-Dragon, and he's about to have a new album. So this plays can easily change in the next month depending on what this G-Dragon album sounds like. But for now, I think we have him in tier 2. No. He's tier 1. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that this new album is going to be really good too. But look, G-Dragon disappeared from the rap scene and the rap world for over half of a decade. He returns with power and has like a bunch of crazy wordplay and just cool stuff going on in it. It completely validates him staying in tier 1, in my opinion. Now, if he comes out with his new album next month and it's just flops in terms of the rapping and it's just very simple, straightforward rapping, then I think it's really easy to move him down to tier 2. But as of where I'm recording this right now, before his album releases, based off of Power and then the rest of his stuff that he had done in his career from 2017 prior, basically, I think he's earned himself tier 1 because Power has shown us that he still got what he was able to do before, and the reason why he's such a well-recognized and highly praised rapper. We'll see what the solo does. If there's a bunch of really impressive stuff next month, I mean, maybe he'll bump him up to tier 0. We'll have to see. But no, I'm really looking forward to this new album. I'm excited to see what G-Dragon's cooking up for us after all these years. Whew. And that brings us to Mr. Zico. Tier 0. Zico is the example of a tier 0 rapper in K-pop. This is like the creme de la creme, the best of the best. The literally, he is a hip hop rapper who's blessing us in K-pop. That is basically what tier 0 is. Man, he'll make a pop song and still have an impressive verse. Spot. It is a literal K-pop song, and he will have an impressive verse on it, and he did, right? And then he was just, oh my god. Just look at No You Can't. No Joke. Lindemann. Everything from No Joke from 2014 or 13, right? No You Can't in like 2022. Lindemann last year. Like, he is easily one of the greatest K-pop rappers of all time. And literally gonna live in this tier until he either forgets how to rap or just disappears off the face of the earth, becomes a CEO of KOZ. It just stops rapping for us. He's going to stay up here till then. Because every time he releases something new, it's impressive. Features on a K-hip-hop song, it's impressive. Features on a K-pop song, impressive. Writes his own thing, impressive. The dude has insanely high skills. Now, if you disagree with me for some reason, Zico is tier 0, again, go check out the song No You Can't. Go check out the song from Block B, No Joke. And go check out his feature on the song Rindaman. 3 amazing examples to really get the point across of how good Zico is in terms of a technicality rapper. He's just almost unmatched. Almost unmatched. Because he's not the only one in tier 0. There's going to be others. But almost unmatched. No one in K-pop does what Zico does. To this day. It's crazy. He's so freaking talented at rapping. It's crazy. Even if you don't like him as a person. Insanely talented rapper. Let's go Boy Next Door. We'll start off with Jaehyun. Now, this is a newer boy group that debuted pretty recently in Zico's company, right? And Jaehyun we will put into tier... I think he's solidly a tier 3 rapper at this point. Look, you can make the argument that he is tier 2 or tier 4. And I can see it both ways. He's had some impressive verses and some impressive live shows. And, let's just talk about Taesun while we're here, right? I mean, we might as well. Taesun, I will put a tier below him, though. And I think this is accurate. I think Taesun is the backbone of Jaehyun. You can hear a lot of the stuff between them in, their live show. Where they'll kind of go back and forth a bit, and Taesun does have some impressive stuff, which kind of gets him pushed up to tier 4, because I think in group songs, Jaehyun is definitely the standout between them. I think we need to... Boy Next Door's concept isn't really a rap-heavy concept, so it's hard to really get Jaehyun the time and moments he needs to shine in terms of rapping, especially when you're doing these chill Boy Next Door verses. but I don't think it's impossible for him to keep climbing. And I can 100% continue to see him climb farther and farther up and give us more and more impressive verses. I know a lot of Boy Next Door fans are super high on him and they comment about him all the time, and I completely get where you guys are coming from. And I think he's extremely talented, and I can 100% see him being up here in a year or two. Again, depending on the songs that Boy Next Door get for us. But I think a lot of it has to do with Boy Next Door's songs are very much chilled, and he doesn't have as much of opportunity to like really, really go off. Even though you can still go off on a chill song on a technical level, and he hasn't really done that yet. So we'll have to see. But yeah, and then I think Taesan is a great backbone to his rapping there. Next, we've got Hutta of B2B. This is also Minyuk, if you're not aware. His solo name is Hutta. He's fallen a bit. I have him in tier 2 now. I think at one point I did have him in tier 1. He hasn't done as much. He has a really cool solo album from back in the day that even featured Soyeon, because they're both in Cube, obviously. But yeah, he with Ilhoon leaving B2B back many years ago at this point, actually, but with Ilhoon not being in B2B, Huta's definitely taken the spotlight. And you can like hear him on like, you know, the collabs with like Stray Kids and stuff on Kingdom back a few years ago. And then some recent B2B verses that really get him out to shine. The past year's been pretty quiet. B2B haven't been doing too much outside of ballads, and you know, you can only rap so much in a ballad and do so many technically proficient things in a ballad, you know, so you can't really blame him too much, and that's why he's still pretty high up. But it was hard to justify keeping him at tier 1 because I think I used to have him at tier 1 at one point, but yeah, still an impressive rapper. If we just randomly got a solo album from him next week, I'm sure he could bump himself back up to tier 1. But we haven't, and I would love to see that one day. So Hutta, if you're watching this for some reason, please release a new solo album. I would really love that. I think it would make my day, make my year, make my month. I don't know. Let's continue with the BTS boys. I know there's probably a lot of ARMY watching this to see where I'm gonna put J-Hope, RM, and Suga, and you're probably gonna be disappointed because I feel like a lot of BTS biased people are gonna say that these guys are tier 0. And while I can understand some of them being tier 0, at this point, all 3 of them are tier 1. I don't have the confidence to put any of them into tier 0 at this point. I think RM is the closest with his most recent album. And J-Hope is slightly farther away. If I was ordering them, it would probably be like this. A little bit probably recency because RM had this recent album while Suga and J-Hope are both currently in the ARMY. But it is what it is. I think they're all tier 1. I think, don't get me wrong, they're in tier 1 because they're extremely talented and strong rappers. I think people who hate on these 3 and say that they're not good rappers are completely full of it, and you're just hating them because they're in the most popular boy group in the world. I think all 3 of them have done a really good job over the years, especially older BTS, of creating really powerful lyrics, really powerful raps, and just cover all the bases, right? I think J-Hope in recent years especially has been on the come up. Like J-Hope's just had such a long and consistent career at this point. I think he's just clearly in tier 1. And then you especially factor in the newer raps, like the solo version of On the Street, and like, you know, even some other cool recent and older verses of like Arson, Hip Hop File from BTS, and I mean, even like one verse from back like 2015, right? Like, he's had so many consistently solid verses and some impressive verses like On the Street. Like, it's ridiculous to not put any of these 3 boys here. So like, give some specifics on Suga, I guess. D-Day obviously was a huge release for him and a good push for him 2 years ago now. So it's been a minute since we've got new Suga raps, but I mean, D-Day lives on, you know, holding a lot of weight. And the first 2, you know, mixtapes before D-Day, right? D1 and D2. Sorry, it took me a second to think of those. Look, I've been recording for an hour and 40 minutes of just me talking about K-pop rappers. Please excuse me, my mental lapses throughout the rest of the video. But yeah, you combine his D-Day with like his older mixtapes and old BTS stuff. It really holds him in high regard, even throughout his military service, where he's not releasing anything right now. I think that those mixtapes really carry him a long way, and his old stuff, of his tongue technology. Anyway, and then there's RM, and obviously, like, I just talked about his recent RPWP album. Some crazy good raps on there, nuts. Especially. It felt good. Again, RM subjectively is not my favorite musical artist. I do not like his style personally. To each their own. I know a lot of people love his style, but you can't really, hide the fact that lyrically he's a really good writer, and creates some really good flows and experiments a lot with rhyme scheme and everything. And he has some really good stuff. And you also, throw in these recent solos from RM with his, older BTS stuff and older mixtapes, Joke, Do You, Hip Hop File, the Cyphers. Like, RM really's done a lot, and he does have some weak points, but at the end of the day, all three of them are tier 1. All three of them deserve to be tier 1. I know a lot of ARMY would argue that they should be up here with Zico. I can't do that yet, because they have such a weak side as well in terms of Butter, Dynamite. These raps exist, even if we want to pretend that they don't. And there's like quite a few others throughout the BTS title tracks as well. But at the end of the day, they're all very strong rappers who deserve to be tier 1, and they're all really, really, really insanely good. If you're for some reason hating on them because they're in BTS, I do recommend checking them out, because like, refresh your mind of, for whatever reason you don't like BTS for, go listen to them with a fresh mind. Their rapping will genuinely impress you. Okay, let's do BX of CIX. BX we're gonna put into tier 4. At the end of the day, CIX isn't really a rap heavy group. BX has some solid raps throughout the CIX discography, but it's like, again, you can only do so much with the little opportunity you're given. I think he does have some notable stuff, mainly in the earlier areas of CIX, back in 2019 during their debut year. But yeah, it was 2018 they debuted, somewhere around there. Yeah, I don't have too much to say on BX. He's kind of just super solid. Like, he's never really blown my mind with any verse, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think he's like, awful by any means. So he kind of just winds himself up in tier 4 here. Easy enough on that point. Next up, we've got the Gravity Boys, and this is going to be very interesting, because I think both Serim and Alan are tier 5. Okay, first Serum. I mean, just in general, both him and Alan's Gravity verses are so short. Like, Gravity's been around for so long as Monsta X's little brother group, and they have so much control in their music that Starship really lets Gravity write how they want to write and really do what they want to do. And they never really get any notable rapping. Alan and Serum, it's like they'll go in and it's like you'll hear like a vroom, 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 skirt, right? In one of their songs. And it's like, oh, where's the 12-bar rap? Not here. I don't know. It's hard to say that, it's like they're coming off of the same company that Monsta X is from. And they rarely ever do anything of note that you're like rememberable. It's very straightforward rapping. And it's like, a lot of people do love that, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, for this tier list, we're not really judging straightforward rapping. We're judging intricate rapping. And Alan and Sam, neither of them really go out of their way to write anything too intricate here. Next up, we've got Young K. He has a really cool rap, and congratulations. He barely raps. Congratulations is a cool rap. But yeah, I'm not going to put him any higher than tier 6 for one really cool rap from 9 to 10 years ago, So Yeah. But we'll move on to the DKB boys. Now, okay. DKB, I'm going to put both into tier 5. If I was ordering these left to right, DKB would be above Gravity. Ichan has a really cool rap in I forgot what the song was. My apologies. I can't tell you the name of the song. He has one really cool rap in a DKB song, and that's about it. It just like kind of like very unmemorable stuff beyond that. I know most DKB fans will say GK is better, and I'm kind of at the point where I'm tending to agree that GK is probably slightly better. But again, he doesn't have anything too memorable in DKB as well. Both of them very much just kind of are there, and they rap and they do their thing and they move on. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's, do I want to give them a tier higher for like one really cool rap each? I possibly could, but I'd rather, DKB release a really cool rap cipher between GK and Ichan and make me happy. That would make me very happy. And then I could bump them up to like tier 3. But we'll move on to the Diamond Boys. How do I do this? Who should I talk about first? They're all kind of similar. We'll put he into tier 5. It's still a bit early. Not just he, but in general, it's kind of early to judge the Diamond Boys. They've only been around for a year. And in general, in the actual songs themselves, even though they have very hip-hop heavy songs, they rarely ever do impressive things. However, like, they all have really cool mixtapes. Like, he has the N11 mixtape. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay, he could do some stuff. And then you look at the Diamond stuff, and it's just kind of like, meh. And it's like, where's the rapping from the mixtape? I don't know. Again, very young group. They've only been around a year. So we can't put too much into it yet. They still have a lot of time to improve and such. But for right now, I think tier 5 is a good spot. Also for Rex. Again, standout raps is the N11 mixtape that they all got to do their own mixtape. And that's the main reason they're tier 5 and not tier 6. But right now in Diamond, still Rex is also not doing too much. And, same kind of goes for TK as well. I'll also put TK in tier 5. Again, as the last two, still early. N11's cool. He's probably the weakest of the three if I had to order them. I'd probably have him as the lowest. He usually gets the short end of the stick with verses and Diamond. But I need all three of them to get that N11 mixtape that they all got to do and put it into the Diamond songs. That would get them higher. Continuing on, we have the E-Last boys, Wanyuk and Wanjun. Wanyuk I used to be really high on. Like, really high. He's the main vocalist of this group, for the record. And he's actually quite a decent rapper. There's some really good songs from E-Last that have Wanyuk doing a really impressive verse. To the point where he's pretty much as good, if not better, than his group mate Wanjun, the actual rapper of E-Last. And it's just, he's such a good vocalist that he needs to concentrate on the vocals, and you don't get to actually hear him as much in E-Last, especially recently. It's like he had a really cool verse in Dangerous, and then it's just like, what else has he done? So, yeah. That's pretty much E-Last. Solid verses all around. Wanyuk could rap more. He could be higher if he rapped more. I used to be much higher on him, but he very much is not rapping as much as he used to, and it makes me sad. Wanjun, very solid rapper. Kind of almost gets outshined by his vocalist at times, and that's okay because his vocalist is a strong rapper. I would love to see some more rap between E-Last boys because that would probably bump them up more. They've been kind of not rapping as much, and when they do, it's not as impressive as it used to be. I don't know what happened. Epex. Okay, Epex is interesting. When they debuted, they were really, really, really good, interesting rappers. but now they kind of don't do anything. Almost. Let me start with Baeksung. I'm gonna put him in tier 4. He's got flashes. He kind of like he'll like do a really impressive verse because it's fast or interesting, and then the next like 3 songs he'll either just not rap at all or do like the most straightforward verse. So it's really it's very what's it called? Like just the 2 ends of the stick. There's no like spectrum of his rapping. It's just super flashy and interesting, very boring or not rapping at all. there's no in the middle, it feels like. So I'm going to give him tier 4 because at least he has that going for him where he will show us some really interesting rapping. Even if it may not be all the time. Yeah. Then we got Jeff. This is hard. I still feel like Jeff has the most potential of all the guys in Apex, but he doesn't do anything in the actual verse. So I'm gonna have Jeff in tier 5 and Aiden in tier 6. Aiden clearly does the least. Jeff has the most potential, and he doesn't get the flashy moments that Baeksung does. But in general, it's like Apex set themselves up it's kind of like MCND. They set themselves up to be this very hip hop heavy, rap heavy group and never really ever did it. And it's just like, what? I don't know. I think, yeah, Baeksung, most flashiness, but also a very low floor. Jeff has the highest ceiling, but doesn't really show it too often. And I wish he would, because he has a really natural delivery. And then Aiden's just never really, I don't know. He mainly focuses on singing. And it's very straightforward when he does rap. Like in Universe. It'll be a very straightforward rap. Anyway, let's go to the Even Boys. We got 4 of the Even Boy rappers here. I think we'll start off with the clearly the best rapper in Even, which is Kita. And Kita will put up in tier 3, I think. I think Kita has a lot of potential. Like, a lot of potential. You can look back at his work when he was with Cypher in tracks like Weapon. He would also feature in like the K-hip-hop rappers. PH1's track Metronome has a really good verse on there. Has some really good raps on Boys Planet as well. He has a lot of really interesting stuff. We need to hear it in Even. I need to hear the rapping we heard in Cypher on the features from PH1 and on Boys Planet in his Even tracks. And that'll bump him up to tier 2 and possibly tier 1 depending on how good it is. This guy's easily the best rapper in Even. Beyond that, we have Junghyun, Jiho, and Junghyun. All very similar names to me, and I'm doing my best to not get them mixed up. I think we'll just start with Junghyun, tier 6. He's a vocalist, basically, that sometimes raps, from what I've noticed. Definitely needs to rap a lot more to really move up on the list. And I think he's the lowest of really all of them. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Then we have Jiho and Junghyun and Even. I don't know. This is much harder between tier 5 and 6. I don't think any of them are really at Kita's level. I think he's just the clear main rapper of the group. By quite a bit. I think you can make an argument that they're tier 5 or 6 either way. I'll put them both in tier 5, I think. Again, Even really seems like it's a group that's like, Kita is there, and then the other ones kind of support the rapping. You could make an argument that they're all down here, though, but I think Junghyun's pretty clearly down here, and then these two can be either way. I don't know. Kita is the main shining point of Even. Go check out Kita if you haven't seen him yet. He's featured on K-hip-hop tracks. He's done stuff on Boys Planet. He's done stuff on his old group Cypher stuff with Tag, which we'll get to in a minute. But for now, let's go to Chanyeol. And Chanyeol, I'm gonna put into tier 3. Chanyeol is like a straight up idol rapper, right? He's like literally one of the best idol rappers. And what I mean by idol rapper is like an idol who is taught to rap and raps because he has to. It's not like he wants to be a rapper. He's doing it because he has to. And that's perfectly fine that he's rapping because it's his job, not his passion. But you can like literally hear like the skill involved and stuff like Let Me In, where he's rapping off beat, like intentionally off beats. It's really difficult, really impressive. Did he write it? No, but it's extremely hard to do nonetheless, right? You can even hear it in some older stuff, like on the KPOP album Forever. He has a really cool rap that goes over the bar, and it just keeps going and has this really cool feeling that it just like never ends. Really cool verse from Chanyeol. But I don't think like rapping is his strong suit. I don't think he writes most of his raps, but he's pretty consistently good at it. So it gets him up into tier 3 at the very least. But yeah, you can really hear how much better he gets over time as well. If you go check out like early EXO rapping and compare it to new EXO rapping, it is night and day. He has gotten so much better compared to like 2013 EXO rapping compared to 2024, or I guess I should say 2023 EXO rapping, because they haven't had to come back since 2023. You can literally hear a difference in those 10 years. He's gotten so much better. Yeah. Whoo! Let's do some Golden Child. Both solid. Jongjoon and Tag from Golden Child are both just very solid tier 4 rappers. I don't think either of them, like, they both have like, you know, their own places to shine in Golden Child songs, but neither of them have had their own like solo album that really sets them apart, not only from one another, but just in general in K-pop as well. They're kind of just there, and that's okay. You can't expect that from every single group and every single one, but what they do in Golden Child, in a more lighter, I mean, I know they have their dark concepts in Golden Child, but in general, Golden Child, especially in the early years, is a much lighter, brighter, cutesier boy group. They did what they could with what they had, and you know, you got to appreciate it for what it is. I put them in tier 5. I meant to put them in tier 4. Oops. They're not tier 5. Don't worry. Okay. Next up we have Bobby. Bobby is tier 0. And if anybody disagrees, I will like to take you to courts because you are clinically insane. You can literally, I could literally talk about Bobby for like the next like 2 hours. Like I could double the length of this video just talking about Bobby. And I think he deserves every second of that because he is such a not only a talented rapper, but also just songwriter in general, but specifically a rap, because that's what we're talking about. Who cares about his songwriting in a rap tier list? Oh my God, his delivery, impeccable. You look at Intro from this year. You look at Harmless from this year. Like just 2024 alone, he did so many cool songs with going off to the military. He's going to be on another feature 2 next month on a K R&B that he recorded before he left. Oh my God, the dude is an insane rapper. You can go back and like listen to like his Lucky Man album, has some insane raps on it as well. Like Rockstar, like, not to mention all the insane verses in Icon, like Rhythm Ta, and Apology, and Anthem, and the newer stuff. Like you, Tintara. Like, you could just go on forever about how many cool verses. And then, like, you know, you ask any Iconic about how good Bobby is as a rapper, and they will immediately go, oh, well, he won Show Me the Money 3. It's like, yeah, he won Show Me the Money 3. Because he's insanely good. Before he debuted, he won Show Me the Money 3. He featured on Epic High stuff. He's consistently working with K-hip-hop rappers and other K-R&B artists. He has so much respect in the industry. He's so good at rapping. He is so good at rapping. He has so many good songs. Again, just from this past year. Intro. Go check out Intro if you haven't on his recent album. Such a good verse. Such a good verse. But yeah, that's why Bobby's tier 0. Same as Zico. He can literally make a pop track and have an insane rap on it. And it's impressive as hell. I need a drink after that. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. We're 2 hours in. I have been yapping about K-pop rappers for 2 hours. I know most of y'all are skipping around this video and you just went to check out the Bobby part or whoever. Who am I talking about now? BM. You were just checking out BM or Bobby, and you're just like, bro, it might be 5 minutes for you to find this part. It's been 2 hours for me sitting here yapping about rapping. Okay. Much needed drink. My backup drink I brought for this video was long is already warm. My water was warm. That's how long it's been. Let me throw this out real quick. Score. Okay. Enough of a break. Let's continue. This is going to be a 3-hour video. Oh my god. Okay. BM. He's in the horny tier. Why is he in the horny tier? Is this tier 7? This is not tier 7. Do not get this confused. BM is horny. If you listen to any BM track, what is 90% of the lyrics going to be talking about? Doing dirty things with girls. If you are not 18 plus, do not listen to this rapper. He is one of the only rappers in K-pop who will consistently rap about doing dirty things with girls in a bed. And like literally to a T, he'll dot his T's and cross his I's about how many different ways he can sleep with a woman. And there's not many K-pop rappers who rap about this. So he just gets a horny tier because he is the horny K-pop rapper. No, but actually, Nectar. Go listen to Nectar. RSVP Remix, which is a feature. Go listen to that. Icky. There's a card song. Go listen. He will write about doing girls in any chance he gets. He is horny. And that's my biggest takeaway. And that's why he gets the horny tier. Because I cannot accurately place him into a tier when he only writes about doing girls. So, you know what, BM? You do you. If this is what you enjoy, you keep doing it. And I'm going to keep putting you in the horny tier for it. I hope you enjoy being down here, buddy. Let's continue with his bandmate, J-Sef. J-Sef, also in card, is a very, very slept-on rapper, to be completely honest. He's a tier 1 guy. He has a lot of really impressive verses. Been That Boy, Cake, Tell My Mama, especially in recent years. But the kicker, the reason that he gets to stay into tier 1 is you go back to older card stuff when nobody was really talking about their rapping, and he actually has some really impressive verses in like Oh Nana and Ola Ola and some of the pre-debut card stuff as well. The dude was really good and nobody ever talks about him. And I kind of feel bad. Because I wasn't around in 2016 to talk about J-Sef I was around. I was just doing reactions. But I wasn't in a rap analyst way being able to talk about J-Sef back in the day. And the dude definitely deserved it. He definitely deserved being called one of the best rappers in K-pop back during the early years of card. And nobody ever did. And it's a missed opportunity. So we're going to take the opportunity ourselves now to put him in tier 1 where he deserves to be, especially after recent verses like Cake and Been That Boy and Tell My Mama. You don't believe me? Go check out Been That Boy. It has an extremely impressive flow. I digress. Let's continue. We've got the Kingdom Boys. Now, Kingdom... what do I even do with Kingdom? I don't know. Jahan and Moojin of Kingdom. Let's just start with Moojin. I'm just going to put Moojin in tier 6. He has a cool rap on SoundCloud called Attitude, but it's like cool. Are you ever gonna do that in Kingdom? I don't know. Hopefully he does, but right now, until he shows it in a Kingdom song, it's hard to put him in tier 5 even though he has like a cool SoundCloud rap. It's like, it only takes you so far with me. Show me that outside of that. You know what? Honestly, I'm just gonna put Jahan in tier 6 too. He would be below Moojin, to be completely honest. Like, he's just a vocalist who sometimes raps. It's like you kind of need a lot more from him if you want him to move up. He has not done that much yet, sadly. Okay. Next is the MCND boys, and you know what? They are saving themselves. If you go back and look at any of my old MCND reviews, not reviews, but like when I talk about the MCND boys as rappers, I always complain about how MCND and the company, if they're in top media, right? The company is holding them back hella hard. Like, They will give them the worst line distribution ever and just be like, we're going to give you 2 bars and you 2 bars and you 2 bars. And then we're going to give the vocalists a whole bunch of time in the verse and then have the rappers do the hook. It's like, bro, you have the perfect, MC&D has the perfect lineup for cool rap songs in K-pop. 3 rappers, 2 vocalists. Have Bic do the first verse, have a vocalist do the pre-hook, a vocalist do the hook. Have Castle J do the second verse, have the vocalists switch between the pre-hook and the hook, and then have Win do the third verse, and have the vocalists then collab together, and maybe all of them do the final verse or something, right? Or all of them do the final hook. Like, you have the perfect setup to do songs like that, and there's not one single MC&D song besides Top Gang that actually does something near that structure, and that annoyed the living hell out of me. And to be completely honest, there's still nothing in MC&D that does that, except a handful of songs that like in their giant discography, there's only a couple songs that do that. Why? So luckily this has changed recently, because while MC&D has become less active as a group, the rappers have become very active on SoundCloud. Castle J has a really freaking good SoundCloud album. You should go check it out if you haven't already. And it bumps him up to tier 2, because guess what? When you allow Castle J to self-write and rap and have all the time to shine, he writes some pretty damn good raps. And he also featured Win, who also wrote some pretty damn good raps, like self-wrote good raps on SoundCloud. But to like stay on Castle J for a minute, ever since like expanding from MC&D to SoundCloud, it's like, oh my god. If you need specific examples, by the way, Pokun, Korean title, Pokun, Ops, Stalkin', Jingle Bell, all on SoundCloud. Go check them out if you want to listen to some good Castle J Cat rap, because you only know about MC&D like I used to, and you're just like, oh, there's the group that they kind of raps, but not really, even though they have a little amount of members. Go check out his SoundCloud. Those 4 songs. Pokun, it's a Korean title. Ops, Stalkin', Jingle Bell. Go check those out. Castle J will blow you away. I wish this rapping would translate to MC&D, and they never let him do it. And it annoys me so much. But we're giving him the tier he deserves of tier 2, because hell yeah. Win of MC&D is also, you know, the same negatives as Castle J, because dude's never allowed to really go off on MC&D verses, but he's allowed to self-write on Castle J songs when Castle J features him on SoundCloud, and he sounds great. Why doesn't that transfer to MC&D? I don't know, but he gets tier 3. I wish it would transfer to MC&D, because he does a lot of really cool rapping on there. And then we have Bic, and Bic I'm going to put into tier 4. I still think MC&D does their rappers dirty by splitting up their time, like I've been talking about. But you can hear sparks from Bic. He has less SoundCloud stuff than Castle J, but you can hear the sparks from him in like stuff like Tyrant and Earth Age. He's also featured on Castle J stuff as well. I think he's the weakest of the 3, but I still think there's a lot there to work with, and I would love for the 3 of them to actually get long raps in MC&D, and this whole thing would just be solved, and we can just put them all in tier 2 where they probably belong if they were allowed to actually rap in MC&D. Rant over. Let's continue. Monsta X. Pretty damn obvious Juhan is tier 1. I mean, god damn it. Like, he's one of the best deliveries in K-pop. He has so much emotion, voice inflection, raspiness, whatever he wants to do. He can bring it through his voice. You'll literally hear him, like, freaking fake barf in a verse. Like, he goes like, bleh, as one of his verses. And it's so cool. It sounds so cool in the verse. That's hype energy if you want to check out the song, by the way. It's like literally he has one of the best deliveries of K-pop. Insanely talented rapper and consistent. I can't wait for Monsta X to come back together. We get, like, Juhan's out of the army now, I believe. I hope we get a new album from him. I hope we get some really cool rapping. He's a very artistic boy. He doesn't just straight up rap all the time, which, you know, makes it hard for him to be up here. Even though Bobby was able to do it. And Bobby doesn't just straight rap all the time. Juhan, I just need to see more features from him on like K-hip-hop stuff and like stuff outside of his own solos when he's doing stuff outside Monsta X, of him doing really cool verses, and maybe he could get to tier 0 one day. Hopefully we'll see what he can do with Monsta X's new comeback. He can see what he can do on some more solos. Juhan, really damn good rapper. I am the other rapper of Monsta X. I'm gonna put him in tier 2. There's a case to be made that he's tier 3. I think he's tier 2. I think his recent solo from last year had some really good rapping on it, even though it was never really intense. And that's perfectly fine. You don't need to have intense rapping to be considered good rapping. But I don't think he is quite on the level of tier 1. And that might just be a stylistic choice from IM of doing a lot of trap-heavy songs. But he really went with a more artsy, chill vibe on his last album and had some really cool rapping on it. And I think it rounded him out a lot better because he used to focus a lot on like trappy, auto-tune heavy verses that really didn't let him shine skill-wise. And I think he was able to add a lot to it in this past album last year. Excuse me 1 second. I'm gonna soothe my throat with carbonated liquid. Okay. My throat is soothed. Whew. We're going to go to Mont Rhoda. He's somebody that's fallen from grace for me. I think I'm going to put him into tier 4. Yeah, I used to have him higher. I think he's extremely talented. Mont doesn't really focus on rapping too much. He's had some cool stuff like Anxious, which had some cool raspy raps to it and some short verses that he was able to do. He had some cool raps on his old album too. Fun fact, I met him. I've been a little biased because I met him and I wanted to make him high. But at the end of the day, it's hard. Yeah, Mont's had like, they all went to the military. They did their military service early so that they could focus on music. And since they've been back, he hasn't done too much rapping. They've like really went into more of a rock style in their comebacks, and rock and rap don't really mix too well. In general, there's some exceptions, but Rhoda hasn't been able to do much in recent years, really since he went and into the military. So we're gonna have him in tier 4. I hope I can bump him back up to tier 2 where I had him at one point. But for right now, I gotta be honest. He hasn't done too much, especially since coming back from the military. And it's been quite a few years. Mark of NCT. Here's the thing, and I know there's going to be quite a few Mark fans that are watching this. Because Mark's had quite a bit of a come up recently with a lot of NCT fans kind of hyping him up as a rapper. Mark is one of the best pop rappers in K-pop. He will make a catchy ass verse like Misfit, just so rappable for just the most general of fans. And I think that is an insanely good skill to have. Is that a skill that's going to get him into tier 1? Not necessarily, because I think everybody else in tier 1 has the capability to do that too. It's just Mark focuses on that. And you get some really cool verses. Now, I gotta address the elephant in the room. Wall to Wall. Wall to Wall is probably the best rap verse of 2024 in any K-pop song. The kicker is, and the reason I can't put Mark up here for it, is because he didn't self-write it. And it annoys the hell out of me because he didn't self-write that verse. That cool verse where he's rapping in a different tempo than the song, he didn't self-write. It's by a different guy. And he wrote the verse. And he actually commented on my little flow breakdown of it. And it was like, hey, thank you for enjoying my verse. And I was like, hey, you're a cool dude for writing that. And he never got back to me. But I wanted to ask him how he ended up writing it and everything. But anyways, Wall to Wall, one of the best rap verses 2024. If Mark wrote it, he would have been tier 1 right now. The fact is, he didn't write it. I can't put him in tier 1. Fraxia was really freaking good, and that's why Mark is solidified in tier 2. Even though he has quite a few weak verses, he has a handful of strong verses, like 7th Sense, like Mad City. There's a handful of others. I recently did an NCT 127 discography listen to, and there's 1 or 2 parts from Mark that I hadn't heard from before that stood out to me that I needed to check out. So he does have a handful, but in general, Mark does very, very pop-friendly verses, which, again, very skillful in its own right, but I can't put him in tier 1 for the ability to do that. But that does get him tier 2, at the very least. And Fraxia almost gets him to tier 1. If he self-wrote Wall to Wall, he would be tier 1 easy. But sadly, he didn't. And that gets us to Mr. Taeyong. I will also put Taeyong into tier 2. Taeyong has become very well-rounded as an artist. His solos very much focus on everything from vocals to dance to rap. He has some cool verses in stuff like his recent two solo albums that are not necessarily like chill. Like you listen to Tap, and it's like it's a cool little verse. Like it's nothing tier one. And then you listen to the rest of the album, and it's like he has some cool parts of like 404 not loading and 404 or 404 file not found and 404 loading. He has some cool like sing rappy and Moon Tour. There's quite a handful of songs that he does go off in, and even in NCT he has some cool parts in like Chain and I mean, I guess Chain's not really his best verse, but I mean, I digress. He has a really cool delivery, and just in general is a very competent rapper. Who has some very impressive verses at times. Be Natural with Red Velvet back in the day was a really good verse from him, especially back when he was younger. And then also like the pre-debut song from Taeyong, I forgot what it was called. It was like the 30 or 50, the 60-second song maybe, which is like one verse. I wish I could remember the title. NCT fans should know what I'm talking about. He had like a little pre-debut solo thing, and it just went hard. I wish he had more of that. Anyway, there's NCT. That's Market Taeyong. Next up is Sunghyub of N-Flying, also known as Jadon in his SoundCloud name. He has a bunch of really cool SoundCloud stuff, and that's really the main reason why he is tier 3. I think a lot of his N-Flying stuff, again, rock and rap do not really mix well in terms of intricate rapping in general, I guess, flows, rhyme schemes. Rock really sets it up in the same way pop does, of not really being able to focus, because rock you're focused on the hard-hitting beat, and the pop you're focused on the catchy melody. You're never really focused on the rap in both, and I don't know if it's just something with me related or what, but rock tends to drown out the rapping, and you can really say that because most of Jadon's, I'll call him Jadon for simplicity's sake, Jadon, most of his best stuff is in hip-hop centric stuff on like SoundCloud, and features on other people's tracks that aren't rock or pop heavy. And that's really where he shines the most. He does have some really cool stuff like that, though. I do recommend checking out Jadon on SoundCloud. He's had some cool features with other K-pop idols and collabs with other K-pop idols that do go off really well. I think he's definitely earned his place in tier 3. It would be hard to put him up into tier 2 or tier 1 until he's able to translate that to N-Flying specifically. But for right now, I think that tier 3 is a good spot for Jadon to be in. Next up, we're going to skip Jisung right here because he actually, fun fact, is no longer in NTX or Tan, even though he's a damn good rapper and he would have been really high up. So we're going to go Rahyun, who is in tier 1, and oh my god, this guy is probably the most unknown rapper you'll see in tier 1, and he deserves to be here for every second that he is here. My god, he is one of the best, like, not known rappers in K-pop. He's extremely talented, he is such a good articulation rapper. He was able to get across his words like extremely well when he is rapping super fast, and he's able to clearly articulate every single syllable he's saying like that. And it's like he makes it just sounds like it's nothing, right? He enunciates so freaking well. And he has so many cool odd flows. And you can just listen, if you want to hear all this in one song on the K-pop group's track, check out NTX Kick It the Door. One of the best raps from last year. And yeah, it's Kick It the Door. Weird grammar, I know, but I don't think he made the name of the song. Not only does he articulate a very fast rap that's very clear, he does it while rapping 2 quintuplets. 2 quintuplets! We freak out about 1 quintuplet here. He's doing 2 quintuplets. Now, it's not Han Ji-sung doing 2 quintuplets back to back, but he's the quintuplet, and then the next bar, another quintuplet. Very cool. Very impressive. Dude has an entire thing of SoundCloud raps. He releases a SoundCloud mixtape like every other week. Like he's literally just in his room writing freaking raps whenever he's not promoting with NTX, and it's crazy how talented this guy is at rapping. And can't wait to hear more from him, because he is an insanely good rapper that basically everybody in K-pop is sleeping on because NTX is such a small group. Okay, moving on. Next up, we've got again skipping Jisung, Tag of One Pact. Now, we talked about his former... Tag used to be in Cypher, okay? We talked about his former rapper mate of Kita earlier. They used to be in Cypher together, the group CIIPHER. Tag is easy tier 2 for me. One Pact is coming back in a few days after you see this, or maybe a few days as I'm recording this. I don't know when I'm uploading it. Hopefully the day I'm making it. Anyway, Tag is either coming back in the next day or so, or they had just come back with a new comeback. I don't know how good Tag's rapping is going to be. This is going to be the first comeback in a year that Tag doesn't have to do the main vocals and the raps, because the main vocalist hasn't been with the group, Jay. He hasn't been with the group for the past year, so Tag had to do the vocals, so we didn't get as many cool raps. I'm very much looking forward to the One Pact's comeback, because we'll get to actually see if Tag is the real deal. Am I going to regret putting him in tier 2 and be like, crap, he didn't rap at all in this new album? Possibly. Am I hoping that's true? No, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. So please do not come with pitchforks if One Pact has a new album and Tag barely raps. Because last year, even when he was taking on the main vocal role, you had stuff like Deja Vu, where he did a quintuplet and had super intricate lyrics, right? You had stuff with like really cool deliveries like Fuck It, which was the song name, surprisingly. You had some really just good overall raps. And I'm very much expecting him to continue this trend on his brand new album. You can literally go back to old Cypher as well, and some of the solos and mixtapes he did back in Cypher. Very good as well, very slept on back then, and hopefully he's finally getting his he's finally getting his flowers, because he self-produces the whole group as well. I'm really hoping he gives himself some time to shine so he can get his own so he can get his own flowers. Yeah. Moving on, we've got Lido of One Us. Now, here's the thing with Lido. I'm putting him in tier 4. Why? He's a decent rapper. The thing is, though, Raven has left One Us. And it's kind of similar to what I was talking about with Astro, with Jinjin. Rocky left Astro, and Jinjin hadn't done much. It's kind of the same with Lido. Raven was kind of the main guy there. The main guy, I guess. He definitely had the more intricate rap parts, and Lido was like the deep voice kind of backup. And it's like, if you prefer the deep voice, that is completely up to you, and I would never tell you that is wrong by any means. But in terms of intricacy and rap skill, Lido was definitely, behind Raven. And now that Raven's not in One Us anymore, Lido hasn't really taken that next step forward to take over that role that Raven had of intricate, complex rapping. So is he tier 4? Is he tier 5? I could possibly put him down here. I think I'm fine with him tier 4 for now. If he still hasn't done anything by next year at this time, I might be bumping him down to tier 5. Because he's very much a straightforward, straight to the line rapper, at least for right now, from what I can tell. Moving on, we have the other one group. One Us? Nah, one we. We have Giyuk. Now, Giyuk, oh my god, he is in a rock. You know how to saying rock and rap don't go together? I keep saying that all the time. They don't, and I still don't think that they do. But Giyuk is tier 2 because he is consistently doing raps outside of the rock genre on his own. He released a solo album with this really, really offbeat flow that sounds so trippy to listen to. It's really cool. I forgot the name of the song. Overtake. It's called Overtake. Crazy and Crazy, an older example of a hip-hop song that he was working with Raven, and I think it was actually Lido on it as well. They were all working together on a song called Crazy and Crazy. He's an insanely talented rapper, and he kind of holds himself back a little bit because he's a bassist in a rock group, not a rapper in a hip-hop group. But yeah, we just need a tad more from him, especially in One We. But again, it's a rock band. How much more can we ask of him? But if we ask more of him, maybe he gets up here one day. That's the goal, at least. I would love that. Intak and Jongsub of P1 Harmony. I'm just gonna make this nice and quick. They are both in tier 1. If you're not familiar with P1 Harmony, because I always forget that they're a smaller group than I think they are. Holy shit. Jongsub is like 18. He's extremely young. Maybe he's 19 now. He is extremely young, and he's been around for like 4 or 5 years in a K-pop debuted group. And Oh my god, this kid is insane. There's so many insane examples of him rapping out of his mind. He has one of the most unique deliveries that plays with space in his flow and is consistently writing new raps outside and inside of his group. He's doing stuff like Down Bad, which him and Intalk, by the way, also had a good verse. You can look up verses like he did his own version of Praise the Lord from ASAP Rocky, right? He has his own verse in there that's really cool. He has like a bunch of quintuplet stuff and like Killing It from this year, which was like a super icon. My root came 2005, like there's so much odd spacing in the flow that no other K-pop rapper does. You see how hype I am about Jungsup? Because I can literally talk about this kid for days. Now, is he tier 0? No, at least not yet. And I would never say that he is. We need to see him as a soloist first. I need to see what he can do on his own. But again, he's only like 18 or 19. It's like he's the age that Changbin and Suga debuted at. Just let that sink in real quick. Anyway, insanely talented kid. Insanely talented kid. He is literally should be one of the top rappers in K-pop and should be seen as that because that is how insanely talented he is. Intalk, on the other hand, I say on the other hand, there's no other hand. It is the same hand. He is also insanely talented, and it's just his fault that he's in a freaking group with Jungsup, who is like one of the most insanely talented rappers. But you know what? I'm tired of putting Intalk down here and being like, oh, I mean, he's in the group with... Nah, he's tier 1. He had an insane year last year, too. He had as many good verses as Jungsup did. He might not play with space in the same way that Jungsup does to make him stand out from other rappers in the same light, but he just writes some really good verses. He's like worked his way up throughout the years, seemingly like peaking this year in general with some of his best verses and like songs like Emergency, Sad Song, Wasp. Him and Jungsup on Wasp together. Ooh. But like his older raps, they still hold their weight from like I mentioned Down Bad, right? That one. Mirror Mirror from a few years ago. Honestly, like I just hope to see him continue at this level in 2025 and Jungsup like continue to like get up to tier 0. It could be really cool if they were both up here one day, like doing K-hip-hop shit. That would be fucking dope. But anyway, I'm dreaming. Right now, they're both tier 1. P1 Harmony have an insanely talented rap line. Go check them out if you've never really given P1 Harmony a chance. We'll do the Plave Boys next. And now, I need a caveat because I don't know what I'm allowed to say here about who Plave really are as idols. So, allegedly, Eunho is Yano of Top Dog. I think Yano of Top Dog is an insanely cool rapper. Yano would be tier 3 probably, because we haven't heard him rap in years. But back in the day, he'd be tier 3, tier 2, right? However, his stuff that he's done in Plave hasn't been too impressive yet. So like 90% of this placement is he's going to be tier 4, and 90% of it is because of his alleged Top Dog stuff. I don't know if I'm allowed to assume that he's Yano of Top Dog. I'm assuming he is. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say that. I've heard horror stories of people getting sued by Plave's company for alleging who the idols actually are behind the virtual idol. So allegedly, if he's Yano of Top Dog, I'm going to put him in tier 4. 90% of the reason is because of the Top Dog stuff. He hasn't done too much. He has a cool rap in Watch Me Woo. He has a decent rap in that. But we need a lot more of that in play for him to kind of go up from there. Now, on the other hand, I don't know who Hamin is. So I can't really, factor in other raps of Hamin. And from what we've heard in Plave, he's kind of tier 6 at this point. He's had a couple of lives that have been very questionable, rap wise, and he hasn't had too much impressive stuff. It shows potential because he is covering K-hip-hop, but like the live versions kind of always just seem to miss a beat, like not like literally missing a beat, but like they don't live up to the actual thing. And I don't know if it's because he's behind a virtual idol, whoever the dude is, but at this point, we need to hear more in Play, especially because it's super short, super simple, and we just need some more. Again, it kind of applies to Eunho as well, but a lot of him being 2 tiers higher is because he's allegedly Yano. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not. So I have to be like allegedly. I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of just theory crafting, I guess. But yeah. Oh, okay. Give me 1 second. I need to check my phone. I have been talking about K-pop rapping for 2.5 hours. Okay, I need to make sure that um I need to make sure I'm not going crazy. Okay, I'm not going crazy. Okay, I just need to make sure that nobody was contacting me. I don't film 2.5 to 3 hour videos that often. Okay, this is like a once a year K-pop tier list thing, and I'm talking about every K-pop rapper. So, please forgive me for distracting myself. I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours and I haven't gotten up, and this is kind of crazy because I know most of you are just skipping around the video. If you want to sit here for 2.5 hours to listen to me yap, I appreciate it though. It gets my watch time up, and that's really good for the algorithm. But let's talk about Rise, and we've got Sungchan and Shotaro of Rise. I think they're both tier 6. Rise haven't done anything rap wise. I guess we'll start with Sungchan. His best rap so far is kind of easily Lightbulb from NCTU, which really tempts me to put him in tier 5. But he's also never done anything to that level outside of that one verse. So it's like, should I put him up here? No. Like, he's doing it once, gets you 1 tier higher. Nah, you know? But yeah, that's kind of what gets him here. Rise is not focused on rap, and the best example is Shotaro. Please excuse my mispronunciations. I've been again talking for 2.5 freaking hours. Shotaro, look, this is what I wrote down in my notes. And I think this perfectly exemplifies why he's tier 6. Okay. Click's first Rise song, quote, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. If the first thing I see from you is a no context eeny, meeny rhyme, you ain't making it high." It was the song Siren. So like, yeah, it's like, okay, let me like make sure I'm not missing any. Like, I'll click on a bunch of like, especially groups I don't listen to all the time. I'll double check their rapping to make sure that I'm not missing something, right? And so the first song I look up for Shotaro is just eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then he just starts rhyming with mo and Siren, and I'm just like, yeah, that's. Like, let me just be clear. The difference between Shotaro just rhyming eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then Hongjung being tier 1 in a song called eeny, meeny, miny, mo, he didn't choose it. That was Chungha's song, and he featured on it, so he had to put eeny, meeny, miny, mo in it. But he also did one of the most impressive verses through the rhyming outside of just the one eeny, meeny, miny, mo rhyme, and the flow beyond that. And also spicing up his delivery, which Shotaro has not done. Now, at the end of the day, could Rise suddenly become a hip-hop group and just blow my mind? Sure, I would love that. But they're also SM, so I don't think they're going to do that. But they have not had the most impressive rapping so far, so we're going to put them down in tier 6. Next up is the 17 boys, and I just have S-Coops and Vernon on here. Here's the thing with 17. It's like they have a lot of potential. At the end of the day, we'll put S-Coops in tier 3. I'll put Vernon up in tier 3 too. They have a lot of potential, and I would love to put them up in tier 2 or tier 1. But the fact of the matter is, again, I say this every year for 17, their best rapping is behind them. When they were doing their SoundCloud and mixtape stuffs back in like 2014, 2015, 2016, that is when 17's rap line was insane. And you can look at Wonu and Mingyu for that as well too. Nowadays, they pretty much very much just do straightforward rapping, and it sucks. Like, because like not the actual rap itself doesn't suck, or else they put them in tier 6, right? But like, it's just the feeling sucks because it's like that they've had really good rapping, and you just don't get to hear it because 17 isn't a rap group, and they don't do their mixtapes and their SoundCloud anymore. It sucks, man. I want that 17 back. But at the end of the day, it's like, I can't be crediting them for stuff that they did 10, 11 years ago in 2025 when they're not showing it in current 17 stuff. So, I don't know. Hopefully, Vernon had a solo and he didn't even rap. You know what? Fuck it. Vernon's a tier 4. He did a whole ass solo and just did pop punk. It didn't even rap. So we'll put Vert in tier 4, S-Cup's tier 3. Then we have Huyoung of SF9. Okay. Look, Huyoung, he's a mixed bag of marbles, kind of. I kind of also almost want to just talk about Zuho first, because it makes it easier to, it makes it easier to talk about Huyoung. Let me talk about Zuho first, okay? So Zuho will put in tier 2. It feels like every time SF9 have a comeback, Zuho shows up with some really weird verse that's just spicy and makes you go, what did he just do? Like, every January comeback, I feel like SF9 come back every January except this year, and Zuho does a really weird verse, and it sounds really intricate and insanely skilled. Now, I wish he would do that more than once an album, but, when you're doing it once an album, I gotta give you credit when it's due, and I'm gonna put you into tier 2. Now, as for Huyoung, I'm gonna put him in tier 3. He has some bright moments, like he was on High School Rapper, he was on Kingdom, and did that whole thing with Bobby and Sunu. The thing is, he also has some SF9 verses like Just that's kind of impressive. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's like, he's not doing it as consistently as Zuho, to the point where I'm almost wanting to put him in tier 4 because it's so rare that we get a really cool verse from him. But I think he's earned himself the spot of tier 3, at least for now. We'll have to see with future SF9 comebacks. Maybe he goes up more, maybe he goes down more. But right now, tier 3 seems like a good spot for me based on his history with, outside of stuff of SF9, even though he's clearly weaker than Zuho in SF9. I'm going to leave... I'm tempted to leave Woo Jin Young off of the list because we'll put him in tier 3. He's been so inactive. He's not in his group D once anymore, and we haven't heard a new album from him in 2 years. Actually, no, wait, that is a lie. We did hear one from him a little over a year ago, I'm pretty sure, and it was a very album in terms of rapping. He did not really do anything rap-wise. He has some really freaking good verses, like Rapper of Sungjin, I believe is the name of it. I could be getting the Korean wrong. Again, I have been yapping for 2 hours and 37 minutes. Please bear with me. Woo Jin Young has some really cool verses, not only in D1s, but as a soloist, and he hasn't done anything in like over 2 years, rap-wise. I used to have him up at tier 1, and, when you don't do anything, you fall from grace, and he's kind of a tier 3 now. I would love for him to, bump him back up with a really freaking cool rap, but, that's on him to release it. And he doesn't have a group to rap in anymore, so it's like, I don't know. We'll have to see if he gives us a solo to come back to. But he does have some really good verses. Do not get me wrong. We haven't heard anything in, over 2 years. You know what? We're about to talk about Stray Kids. Let me get my drink of water because this is gonna be a lot to say. This is not water. I'm going crazy talking about all this rapping. Changbin, Felix, Han Ji-sung, and Hyunjin. How am I putting them in here? We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up, okay? We're going to start with Felix and put him where he rightfully goes, which is tier 4. When Felix is allowed to self-write and do what the frick he wants, he is much better than when he is given a verse from Changbin, Han, or Bangchan. Him doing his stereotypical, yeah, I'm a deep voice, yeah. It's like, okay, we get it. And he's done it so much over the years, it's really boring. But when you actually let him actually rap, he has this really unique little flair to his delivery that you don't hear when he's rapping on a Changbin verse, and Changbin gave him the thing, right? And you get to hear that also in Unfair. Even though it's vocal focused, you get this almost, what's the word? I sound like emotion, but you get so much more life from his voice and delivery. Now, at the end of the day, we don't have too much self-writing from him. I can't put him too high. I feel like if he would self-write a lot more, we could see him higher. But for right now, tier 4 seems like the accurate spot. Hyunjin, I would even bump up to tier 3 above him. When Hyunjin self-writes, Hyunjin has some really cool stuff that's going on in his verse, right? Hyunjin, like, has, like, you know, some solos, right? Like the Stray Kids the players, that he has some interesting flows going on, some more complex flows going on, and it's just, you know, when he's in the Stray Kids not self-writing, he's basically imitating Han. And Han, which, you know, let me grab real quick, is tier 1. So Hyunjin imitating Han basically is Hyunjin doing his best cover of a tier 1 rapper like every time he raps, which is enough praise in and of itself. But let's talk about Han Ji-sung real quick. I should probably talk about Changbin first because I would say Changbin is slightly higher than Han Ji-sung, but we're not ordering them left to right for the millionth time. Han Ji-sung, oh my god, has become insane. He has not only done a double quintuplet this past couple months ago, he is consistently freaking writing at such a high level. Like, arguably the next great name to come out of rap in K-pop. Like, when Stray Kids start enlisting, which I know Stay are just like starting to cry now that I just mentioned that because it's really coming around the corner, right? Stray Kids are going to have to do the military service soon. And it's wild to think because it feels like they just debuted for me, who's been in the K-pop world for over 10 years. But anyway, when their enlistment period begins for Stray Kids, I fully, wholeheartedly expect Han to make the leap to tier 0. When he is no longer bound by Stray Kids activities and he's able to just write music and rap, I fully, wholeheartedly feel like he will be up in tier 0 with like Bobby and doing the same thing to Bobby. Like, it's not going to be a full out hip hop album. He's going to have a lot of vocals on there probably, which, you know, is evident based off of the recent solos. Han did, you know, a very much pop punk type song. Where he played his own guitar for it and everything, but he still rapped on it. And I wholeheartedly believe that's going to be his solo, where he's going to have a lot of rapping over not so traditional hip hop beats and still focus on his own. See, anyways, I digress. Right now, he's still tier 1, and I truly think he's going to make that leap to tier 0 when all Stray Kids start doing their solo activities. But, like, you know, considering we already have a bunch of insane raps, like I Got It, Bounce Back, like I just mentioned, the double quintuplet, a rap like Scissors. It's like, I don't think it's hard to believe that he's going to be up there in a few months or in a few years. Like, I truly think this is entirely possible, and should be pretty soon. As long, like, we just need solos from Stray Kids. Like, Stray Kids have been around for freaking 7 years, and we haven't gotten solos from them yet. Outside of like Stray Kids solos inside of Stray Kids albums, like outside of the group, Han Ji-sung doing what he wants without the Stray Kids name attached, we haven't really heard. I mean, we've heard some players, but you know what I mean. We haven't had like a traditional, actual Han Ji-sung solo or a Changbin solo. Now, here's the thing with Changbin. To be clear, he is an absolute insane K-pop rapper. Anybody who disagrees with that is completely insane. I think anybody who doesn't think that Changbin is a top-tier rapper right now is literally living under a rock. I don't know how you could think that he's bad. At the same time, I don't know how people are listening to Changbin in 2025. I guess I should, in 2024, because we haven't heard him in 2025 yet. I don't know how anybody is listening to him in 2024 and not able to admit to themselves that his rapping is steps weaker than what it had been in previous years. If you listen to stuff like We Go, Mirror Mirror, the single Mirror, Maze of Memories, any of the Three Raja stuff like Hoodie Season, like these verses are insane. And that's why I was like, you know, pumping him up as one of the best rappers of K-pop. And again, to be completely clear, he's still an insane K-pop rapper. But over the past 2 years, he's really started to get weaker and stray away from the impressive raps that made him the top of the top that we know him as. And again, if we have another 2025 of him only doing like very mid to low tier raps, I'm gonna have to do this next year. And as a Changbin bias myself, it pains me, but I gotta not be biased and be like, he's doing very simple, straightforward raps most of the time. Tier 2. Right now, he's still tier 1. Insane rapper. Anybody who doesn't think he's an insane rapper is crazy. But I need something from him this year to keep him up here, because Changbin, it's been like 2+ years since we've heard something actually insane from you. Kind of like Soyeon. Please give me something, man, this year. I would love it. Please, Changbin. Thank you. Goodbye. Okay, that's my Stray Kids stuff. Let's keep on moving. Okay, another drink. Ugh. The boys! Okay, so here's the thing. I used to have Sunwoo in tier 1. And I think Sunwoo does have the potential still to be in tier 1, but he hasn't really done anything these past 2 years. He has a couple of cool rhyme schemes in recent years, but the stuff that got him to tier 1 since basically Kingdom, like early to late 2020, 2021. The stuff that he was doing then, he's not doing right now. I don't know why. I don't know what's happening. You can listen to the boys' comeback from a few months ago, like November, I think. He really didn't do anything on it rap-wise. And it's just like, what's going on with Sunwoo? So I have lowered him because I don't think he was as strong of a tier 1 that I had him up there in years past. I do think he still deserves it. I just need to hear some more impressive stuff from Sunwoo to get him up there, because he has some really, really freaking cool stuff, like Full Dash especially. And then there's some other really cool offbeat stuff that he does in The Boys, and really cool rhyme schemes that he does in The Boys. Now, on the other hand, I think Eric is a much, much, much weaker rapper. Eric I have down in tier 5. He's much more straightforward. He is straight to the point. He doesn't do too much spicy stuff. His rapping is very, easily understandable. And, again, that has its own merits to the people who love it. And if that is you, I wholeheartedly understand and I appreciate, everybody's different taste in what they enjoy listening to. But in terms of technical skill, I've never really heard Eric go off in the same way Sunwoo has. Which gets him down into tier 5 in this area. He's very much a straightforward, simple guy, and I appreciate it. But this is about skill, not necessarily about, how catchy your English raps are. So, moving on to Tiyot with Kunhee and Minsung. I think both Kunhee and Minsung are very high potential. I need to hear more of them inside Tiyot. I also need them to write a bit more. But right now, they're tier 4. I think they have a lot going on. They have a lot of potential in terms of Tiyot. They've had some flashes. It's kind of the same mindset as the All Hours boys. Tiyot's kind of on that same page, where I would say they're slightly above the 8-turn boys, but it's just they're inconsistent. Whereas the 8-turn boys are more consistent, and then All Hours and Tiyot are more fluctuating between really good raps and then very basic raps. 8-turn's kind of in the middle. They just do solid raps, so they're more like solidified into tier 4. Whereas All Hours and Tiyot are like, sometimes we have really insane rap, and then sometimes we have very boring rap, and not often in the middle, if that makes sense. So Minsung and Kunhee, I think Kunhee is definitely the higher between the two, but I think that they're close enough together that they are on the same tier itself. Hui, now we have a huge Hui fan in our community of CarKpop, and they have been pushing Hui to really, be as high as he can. So I'm going to put Hui in tier 2. After much convincing, I do think he deserves to be here. I do not think he is tier 1 or even close to tier 1 at this point. I think he is squeaked into tier 2. But that does not take away from the fact that the stuff that got him into tier 2 is insanely impressive. But it is mainly pre-debut stuff from his time on Loud, as well as performances on Age of Ace, which is the new Kingdom that came out last year, right? The Road to Kingdom. That recent one. Those are the main raps that are upping his game into tier 2. If it was just purely based on TNX rapping, I do think he is tier 3, possibly tier 4. But these pre-debuts and stuff outside of the group is what bumps him up. I need to hear more of that inside of TNX for him to have a more strong foundation in tier 2 here. But he's had some really impressive flows and deliveries, especially in these live performances, pre-debut and on Age of Ace. I want that to translate to TNX so badly. Next up, we have the Treasure Boys, Hyunsuk, Yoshi, and Haruto. I think I think it goes like this. Yoshi is tier 4, Haruto is tier 4, Hyunsuk is tier 2, I believe. I think Hyunsuk has come up. Hyunsuk's tier 3. I think Hyunsuk's come up a lot in recent years. Again, Treasure is in the same boat as the other YG groups, where it's almost like a curse to debut as a rapper in a YG group, because you get this expectation put over your head that you are the next great K-pop rapper because of all the greats that came before you, right? And they haven't shown it in Treasure, and they have some cool stuff. Hyunsuk on King Kong, which is why he is a tier above the other two, right? He has these cool syncopated verses where he's delaying like he's dragging his syllables on the start of each bar, which gives this really cool feeling and this really cool vibe. However, he doesn't really done enough inside or outside of Treasure, because the Treasure's a big group and they're splitting raps so evenly amongst the three, Hyunsuk, Yoshi, and Haruto, that it's hard to convince somebody outside of the Treasure fandom that they are insane rappers, because they're not given as much of an opportunity. Now they have some, like, more focused rap songs, right? Like Volcano, right? It's called Volcano, right? I'm not going crazy. Volcano. Yeah, Volcano. That's why I was unsure. They have stuff like Volcano, right? But again, it's a rock-based song, and it doesn't really let them shine to their fullest potential, and we haven't really heard that. Now, the best stuff we've heard from Hyunsuk is on Treasure Box, but again, we're talking about stuff from a Idol's pre-debut that they haven't really been able to show in the group. Now, at the end of the day, I would absolutely adore just a pure hip-hop song cypher from Treasure. That would 100% convince me more that they, Hyunsuk tier 2, and then Haruto and Yoshi tier 3, that would easily get them up like that. But, at their current rates, they're just not doing enough in Treasure to really make themselves stand out as like a true YG rap thing. It's like YG has this notation as like the best rappers come from YG, which I think personally is a curse, that people continuously put idols under this pressure, especially the rappers that come out of YG, because now Hyunsuk has to live up to the standard. Haruto has to live up to the standard. Yoshi has to live up to the standard that they shouldn't have to live up to. Especially when the actual company themselves is very strict in this type of style of song that they want the idols to do. Now, it is cool that they all do self-write, and I think that is a huge plus, and I hope that we get some more cool self-writing stuff from them. And I love that Hyunsuk does write so much for like Baby Monster and stuff, but again, the stuff that he's writing for Baby Monster isn't necessarily the most impressive stuff. So it's like, it's kind of like a two-edged sword. It's like, you're writing for Baby Monster, oh, it's not that good, it's a bunch of onomatopoeia. So yeah, that's what we'll put Treasure. I'm so sorry, Treasure fans. I again, whenever idols do something super cool, I will be the first to praise them. I have nothing against Treasure. Please don't hate me. I know there's a lot of, I hope I explained that clearly, to the best that I can. Yeonjun of TXT. Oh my god, the amount of copium on this boy. Yeonjun's a cool artist, right? But man, he's not a. Why do I see tier lists of like Yeonjun being like a top tier K-pop rapper? The dude is a K-pop idol. He's tier 5. He has some interesting raps, right? Like if you check out like Loser Lover and Good Boy Gone Bad, right? He has some interesting raps that I wish he'd be on that like high point most of the time. But a lot of people will listen to stuff like Puma and be like, that is cool. And it's like, yeah, it's not, impressive, but sure, if you like it, go for it, right? And they'll say Puma's like the best rap in K-pop. It's just like, what? It's not. I mean, even amongst Yeonjun raps itself, like Loser Lover and Good Boy Gone Bad are much better in terms of actual skill. But yeah, yeah. Let's keep going. We've got Daeyeon of We I. I'm gonna put him up in tier 4. I'm tempted to move him down to tier 5. His older stuff does have some cool flashes, which convinced me to put him into tier 4. Nah, he's tier 5. Like, he's kind of the same as Alan and Sam. It's like he's very much clearly a vocalist who sometimes raps, and he has some decently impressive stuff, but I need to hear it on a more consistent basis out of Wei. Now, I might be missing something. This is Wei is probably one of my least familiar, and Daeyeon especially. He's probably one of my least familiar rappers on this list. But unless I'm missing some impressive SoundCloud mixtape that I completely forgot existed, in which case, please comment it down below. And if that exists and it's extremely impressive, I will definitely bump to 4 or 3. But from what I've been able to look up, like his stuff, he's very much a vocalist who sometimes raps, and it's good. It's not like he's like down here with like Young K, right? It's not like he's like Young K vocalist who sometimes raps. Like he's definitely more of a rapper than that. And he's up in tier 5. But yeah, it is cool that he writes a lot too. Winner. Let's go with Huni first. I'm gonna put Huni up into tier. I think you can make a case either way for tier 3 or tier 2. I'm gonna put Huni into tier 3 for right now. I think that is the most deserving spot. He is a good rapper, and I think tier 3 does feature a bunch of good rappers. But I don't think he has done enough to set himself apart from the crowd to really get him up into tier 2 at this point. Now, on the other hand, his bandmate Mino is the other tier 0 rapper. I think Mino is absolutely cracked. He's one of the most insane rappers in K-pop to this day. Even though he's in military service right now, I think that says a whole bunch that I'm still putting him in tier 0 without him releasing anything new. You have stuff like Trigger, which has insane flow. You have stuff like Hop In with insane lyricism. Nothing has insane rhyme schemes, and just the delivery of like OK Man and City Plus 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 and Jump, just all of Jumper is such a good song. This dude writes the most insane raps, and now his delivery might not be for you, the sound of his voice might not be for you, but the stuff that he's doing in the intricacy level of the flow, the rhyme, the writing, the lyrics, the all of it is just, it's chef's kiss. It is such a high skill rap and verse and writing, and it's just so impressive what Minnow does with a pen and paper and then into his mouth. That sounds wrong, but please excuse me. I'm freaking 3 hours into talking about K-pop rappers, okay? So let's finish this up. We've got 4 groups left. Extraordinary Heroes, Odie. He is literally tier 5 for one reason and one reason only. He covered Changbin and Han Ji-sung's verses in Elevator. I don't think his rapping in Extraordinary Heroes is anything that's special, and I think the main thing that gets him here is his covers of Elevator from Stray Kids. That is probably easily the best thing he's done, and Extraordinary Heroes aren't really rap focused, so you can't really look for that to help. Now, I don't know why Gaon's not here, but I think he'd be roughly in the same place, possibly a tier higher. But it wouldn't be that much higher if he even is. Psychers. Whew, let me save them for last because I would have a lot to say on them. Let's go to Day of Unite. Day of Unite, I'm going to put into tier 2. I think this is super deserving of Day. If you have not checked out Day or Unite, he has a bunch of really cool stuff, solo stuff outside of Unite in SoundCloud and working with other rappers like a handful of others. This is the whole kind of like little clique of non-mainstream K-pop group rappers working together, which is really cool, by the way. Nobody really talks about it, but he's one of them. And he has some really cool verses like Geekin is really cool. His freestyle on Age of Ace, those are both great examples from just this past year. But like you could even go back to the song like Form, which was a solo from 2023, which was like an older, insane example from Day. He has a lot of promise if he keeps coming with this trajectory that can get him up into tier 1, especially if it transfers more into Unite. Like Deacon would have been such a good verse. Like it was a good verse, but it would have been an even better verse if it was twice as long. So hopefully Unite can get Day the recognition he deserves. Gunuk has had a really cool rap recently that gets him bumped up from 6 or 5 to 4. He is somebody that barely raps in ZB1, and like, he just has stuff like, you know, not even officially SoundCloud release things, just like random like variety show raps that he would do, and it's so weird. But then, you know, after like 2 years of ZB1, he comes out with Placebo, which you haven't heard yet. I made a side channel video on. Really cool rap, and it's not even an official song. It's like everything cool he does rap wise isn't official songs. I don't know why they don't let him rap like that in songs. But then you go listen to Doctor, and he has this interesting half singing, half rap. It's not even sing rap. He'll just start rapping like bada 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 da. It's just like, what the fuck, Gunuk? And he just like goes from rapping to singing. And I'm just like, okay, that's fucking wild. Yeah. That's what gets him up into tier 4 is being the Placebo thing. If he can keep going on that trajectory with Placebo, he'll get even freaking higher. Now let's finish this off with Psychers. Psychers, Yechan is easily tier 1. The dude is a rookie. I mean, at this point, he's probably a sophomore. Rapping quintuplets, and is basically every single freaking time he has a new verse, it's insane. It's like whatever he touches is gold. He is such a talented rapper, and he's going to be one of the best in K-pop if he continues at this trajectory. The sloppy verses that Yechan and Psychers in general did was insane. Like, actually insane. The stuff that he did on Sloppy. But anyway, every single Psychers verse that he gives us is just, there's always something interesting, whether that be the flow with a quintuplet in Tricky House, or the delivery in or the rhyme scheme in like this. There's just every single song has something cool. The kid is so good, and he's so young. He's like Jong Sub to me in terms of the age and skill level. They're both like at that same point. Finally, I get Sumin and Minjae. First off, we'll do Minjae. He is tier 2. I think he is insane as well. He could be up in tier 1 next year with the Yechan if he keeps on this current trajectory, because his last comeback, which he had one of the best rhyme schemes in K-pop last year with, what? And it's self-written? What? And he has an insane delivery in Red Sun. He's just becoming such a consistent rapper, even going back to the pre-debut of Canvas. It's like such a good rapper. And he could easily be up at tier 1 in the same sense that, you know, both P1 Harmony Boys are next year with him and Yechan. Now, Sumin. I don't think Sumin has as much of a clear case to be jumped up to tier 1 at this point. I would have him in tier 3. I think he's much stronger than what I initially thought. He's much more the strongest delivery in Psychers. He's very powerful in terms of the lyrics he does. Kung, by the way, great rapping from all three of them in Psychers. But anyways, I just thought of that. Insanely, like, again, maybe in like a handful of years, he could be up here, and it's all three of them up here, like BTS, right? I can definitely see that happening, and maybe even next year he's up here if Minjae doesn't go up. He's up here with Minjae. But I can definitely see him continuing to skyrocket up because he's getting better and better. What's the song called? Let me look it up real quick. You know, it's the end of the video. I'm going to actually look up a example real quick. I'm not going to play it because I'm not going to play it because copyright, but I'm going to find the song name so you can listen to it. Sumin's best thing is it's not the most popular song. It was a B-side with the music video. Do I really need to pull out my Apple Music? Okay, fine. I'll pull out Apple Music. Hold on. Is it Sunnyside? Or is it Homeboy? It might be Homeboy. I think it's Homeboy. Homeboy's a really cool rap from Suman. But he's also good in, Red Sun. Just the deliveries in general of that song is really good. But anyways, there you go. Here's the full tier list if you would like to see it from head to toe. Here's tiers 0 through 4. Take a look. Feel free to pause it to really study it if you ended up skipping 3 hours of me talking about all these rappers. And here's tier 5, 6, and Horny. Again, Jisung is not in here. Again, if you're just skipping to the end to see the full list, these are not ordered left to right. It is just whatever the order was down here, and I just put them up. If you want me to order them left to right, that would be its own video. Yeah, we could do a ranking or something. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for chilling with me for 3 freaking hours of me yapping about K-pop rappers. I still can't believe I did this. If this does well, I will do it next year as well. If this doesn't do well, I'm going back to not yapping for 3 hours and making this like a 1-hour video where I barely talk about each rapper. I hope this is worth it. But I appreciate you watching nonetheless. Again, shout out to all my amazing Patreons. I'm not going to have them on screen right now because editing is... editing a 3-hour video. Yeah, shout out to all my amazing Patreons. You guys know who you are. You'll be credited in the next video, I promise. But for this one, I just appreciate you guys being on Patreon and supporting me. If you would like to join them and you have the means to do so on Patreon, you can find the link in the description. If you would like to support me for free, you can either watch all 3 hours of this in its entirety as you're falling asleep, or... just join us in Discord and become a part of the CarKpop. I've been talking for 3 hours. I can't do an outro. Become part of the CarKpop community. If I put your favorite rapper way lower than you wanted, please don't hate me. I just, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to hype up anybody's fave specifically. But, yeah. Anyway, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, guys. I will see you all in the next one, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.